In State versus Kelly, the jury is absent. Counsel and the defendant are here. Just to make a record, we all the parties, counsel and the defendant and the court and court staff did accomplish the visit to the Kelly Ranch yesterday. It went off seamlessly. There were no issues, no problems, and everyone followed the court's instructions and orders perfectly, and that includes all counsel and the parties. I'm very grateful for that. So thank you very much, and I'm also grateful for all the law enforcement that helped us facilitate that to make sure it came off as it did. There were some questions that have been made part of the record. In connection with one of the questions, I wanted to talk to counsel at the end. I was a little confused. One of the jurors asked a question, and by the way, we obviously had the court reporter there. We took a lot of this down as needed. But the final question was, who is the man in the white-green shirt? And we tried to clarify. First, we thought he was talking about the deputy court administrator who was there, and then we thought he was talking about a student intern we had there for demonstrative purposes if needed. And then it turns out he was talking about Mr. Larkin. And I think I just told the gentleman as the answer that Mr. Larkin was, that the person was a person who was associated with one of the parties and just volunteered to set things up. When I thought about it later last night, I thought maybe the juror was thinking that that person, Mr. Larkin, was someone who was affiliated with the Kelly Ranch, and he was working there or something there, might have been there, but. Anyway, does any party want me to clarify that at all? I'm just not sure if he was just curious who that person was, but I did have some, again, you speculate about what someone might have been asking, and I thought, well, maybe he thought that was someone who might have been there during the events in question. I don't know.
Your Honor, the state would request that we tell the jury that it's Ms. Kelly's attorney. Mr. Larkin does represent Wanda Kelly, and he appeared at her deposition, so our request would be that the jury know who he is. I'm not sure what the juror observed, but I think that there may be something he observed, which is a reason why he was asking that.
Do you have any thoughts?
I think the response that you gave to the juror was perfectly fine, and you asked him if he needed any further clarification, and he said no. It seemed to me like it was just curiosity.
All right. I don't think it's relevant that he was... he was there, he volunteered, we needed someone's help to set things up so that when we went out there with the jurors we left here about 1:15, 1:30, and we got out there that things were set up and ready to go. We didn't have to set it up out there. And counsel had been out there and identified the locations that were agreed upon, and that's what he did. So I don't think it's relevant who he was, except to the extent that he wasn't someone, I think, who was there, as a resident of the Kelly property. That was my concern. But if you're not concerned about it, then that's fine. We'll just leave it. So.
Yeah, I think the juror would have followed up if there was something else.
All right, very well. Then I won't make any additional record on that. I will make the record. I've got the 1 through 15. I think we should file this and make this part of the record. These are the 1 through 15 are the identified locations to which the jurors were taken, and 15 is the second pump house barn. And then I'm just going to write in here 16, which is we drove to the end of the border wall. Okay.
And Your Honor, the state requested that the deputy court administrator take photographs of all of the locations. I'd like those to be part of the record. So I wouldn't have an objection to the witnesses having those photographs. I'd be willing to stipulate for the jury to have them, but I certainly would like them admitted just for the record so that the appellate record is clear on what the jurors observed.
And I would just want to see those first.
Sure. Okay. We can make that happen. I'm not too concerned about that because we have this map key to what they saw, which is 1 through 16, and it identifies everything they saw. And each of these locations, 1 through 15, that are on this list, the locations that they saw have been identified numerous times in the record so far during the trial. So there's not going to be really much confusion or any confusion about what they saw, but we'll see what's available on those photographs, and we'll make them available to the parties to review. All right, so this is labeled key to jury view. It's 1 through 15, and I've written number 16 in viewing of the end of the border wall. So let me give that to the clerk for filing in open court, made part of the record. All right, one other thing before I bring in the jury, timing. I want to resolve the case, and my goal would be to resolve the case within the time limits that I set for the jurors. And as I said, I talked to the parties a number of occasions about their estimate for the trial time. You estimated 3 weeks. Yesterday was 3 weeks. We've gone beyond that. And now looking into next week, my concern has been, to try to finish the trial within the time limits, but also, I want to, and that's why I've been asking the defense about your defense case. I want to make sure the defense has every opportunity it needs to present what other witnesses' testimony and evidence it needs as part of the defense. And I get it. It's no one's fault. It's no one. These are estimates, so we make estimates. You can't predict what the other side is going to do during the trial. It's like a play without a script. And it's all kind of improvised to some extent. So you made your best estimates, and that estimate is passed. So if we go through next week and into the next week, that's what we'll have to do. But one thing I was going to suggest is I can get coverage for myself for my Monday calendar. And I've already talked to the other judges about that. So in order to make more time, and again, I'm not going to rush this thing to finish next week if it can't be done. So if we go into the week afterward, then I'll take that on my shoulders and I'll explain to the jury it's no one's fault. All right, these things happen. But I wanted to propose a possibility if we add Monday as a trial day to try to keep things as much on schedule as possible, either a whole day or a half day. Any thoughts about that?
Your Honor, Mr. Jetty and I already discussed that, and we're going to suggest it to the court, so we're 100% on board with that.
Okay.
We're okay with that too, Your Honor.
Okay. All right. Good. So what I'll do, thank you. Then I'll run that by the jurors. I mean, it's a change in the schedule, and we'll see what they're interested in.
And Your Honor, could I make one brief record also?
About what?
During Detective Barba's testimony, Detective Ainza and I both overheard Ms. Lothorpe say liar. I don't know if the jury heard it. I just have some concerns, and I just asked the court to have that in mind, that is a potential issue. So
Well,
I'm sure there's a recording.
I didn't hear it, but that doesn't mean it didn't happen.
Right.
We're all focusing on different things at different times. But
Sure.
Was there a particular point?
I can't remember exactly what. I think it was when the witness was talking about trauma observations.
Okay.
That's my recollection, but I could be wrong on when the statement was made. But I'm just concerned that we keep our comments to ourselves.
And I was going to mention to counsel, not in regard to this. Even before this particular thing was raised, those microphones are really, really sensitive, and you're free to collaborate as you should with your client and with each other. But they're so sensitive that there have been times where the two of you have been talking and it's picking it up a little bit. So.
And I agree with that, and it's my bad. I'm not used to using that, and having to check before we talk. So I am guilty of that, but I don't recall anything about saying anyone was a liar.
All right. Just keep in mind, and again, putting that aside, when you consult with each other, I mean, they're so sensitive that even someone with my hearing, this isn't the greatest, but I have an extra speaker up here, so maybe I hear more, but they're really sensitive. If you want us to turn on the white noise machine, we're happy to do it, but just mute that microphone. Otherwise,
Just gotta remember to push the button.
Yeah, I have the same problem. Okay. Anything else before we bring the jury in?
That was all I
All
had.
right, good. I'm going to try to get us out of here. The plan for today, And this will be good if we're able to add Monday, because I think Friday afternoons are good times to get everyone out of here a little early. So I'm thinking maybe we come back at 1:30 and go like 1:30 to 3 and get people out of here on Friday afternoon. Any problem with that?
No, Judge?
All right. And if we get into the defense case either later this afternoon or Monday, can you have your witnesses, whoever your witnesses are here on Monday?
Yes, Your Honor.
Great. All right, then we're good to go. Let's bring in the jury.
Oh, and Your Honor, we were going to recall with the agreement with counsel Liz Huerta just to get her finished up, if that's okay with the court.
Yes. What's that? That's fine. There it is. Anybody get sunburn out there?
I was happy to have a little sunshine.
Everybody get your taxes filed? I haven't. I have. I'm going to get an extension.
What's the date today?
Today's the 12th. They're due Monday. Oh, yeah, they can get an extension.
I think he's going to e-file it for me, but.
Yeah. Oh, you got a person doing it? Yeah.
I'm one of those ridiculous file in February people.
I can't.
Please rise.
Please be seated. The record will show the presence of all the jurors, counsel, and the defendant. And we're back on the record. Okay, so we've been in here since 8:15 discussing a couple of things. So let me talk to you a little bit about what we've been discussing. But before I do that, ladies and gentlemen of the jury, everything in that visit went off, as far as I could tell, and in my opinion, seamlessly yesterday. And thank you all. I'm very grateful to you all and impressed with how dedicated you were to just following the instructions of the court and making the viewing within the context and given the rules and ground rules that I laid out. And thank you so much for doing that. Situation that I was concerned about and nervous about. There's so many different things that can happen and go wrong. Nothing went wrong. It went perfectly. No one looked sunburned. You all look rehydrated. And I hope in the end it was worth it and a meaningful experience for you to see what is really like exhibit number one in this case, I think, which is a way to look at it, which is what's out there. So let's talk about something else. As I've been trying to keep you apprised, informed of the progress of the trial, as I told you before, the trial was estimated to take 3 weeks. Whenever we do a case, we talk to the lawyers. They have the evidence. They know the case. We don't. And we say, what's your best estimate of how long this case is going to take to try? The estimate was 3 weeks. 3 weeks was yesterday. All right. I gave the trial another week, and that's starting today through the next week, just out of an abundance of caution. Obviously, the state hasn't rested yet. I think they're getting close. But look, these things take what they take. They take what they take in terms of duration of a trial. And we do our best estimates. We do our best to estimate the trial. But, it's unpredictable. We're going to go into next week. I'm hoping to finish next week. But, again, it's unpredictable. I can move things along to some extent, but there are limitations on my ability and powers to move things along. And to some extent, it's appropriate for me, and to some extent, it wouldn't be. So I've got to work within the law and the rules to make sure our things move along appropriately. But it's unpredictable. Now, obviously, I've been telling you things are on schedule. Things are no longer on schedule. We are behind schedule. Now, it's very important for you to know this is nobody's fault, all right? Do not infer anything into this, that it's any party's fault, or both parties' fault, or, it just, we do our best to estimate. And then we added the visit yesterday, which is half a day, which was important, and it was important use of time. But we're behind schedule. We're going to go into next week. I'm hoping to finish next week, but it could go into the next week. So, again, nobody's fault. Don't blame anybody for this. I was telling the lawyers, this is like, it's like putting on a performance of a play without like a script that you follow. It's kind of improvised to some extent, so you just never know what's going to happen. But that having been said, a couple issues arise. Number one, we're not there yet, but if we go beyond a week from today, the 19th, that's the date I had represented to all the prospective jurors how long this trial would take. I needed to think about that, and if we get to that point and you've made other commitments or you have other responsibilities beyond April 19th, beyond the date it was represented to you by me that the case would end, then we have to discuss that. I'm not going to keep anybody here who can't be here beyond the date that I said this case would finish, and that was April 19th. As I said, we're not there yet, but if we get there, I want you to be assured that if you have some other commitments and responsibilities that you just need to do, and if we go into that following week, then I'll excuse you. We have 4 alternates, and we're very grateful that all 12 of you are still here. Again, we do not know who the alternates are. We draw that out of a hat or a cup at the end of the trial, right before you go to deliberate. So I'm comfortable we have some extra people. So keep that in mind, and I wanted to continue, as I've tried to, keep you informed and apprised of the progress we're making on the trial related to the schedule that we gave you. Now, in that regard, because I'm trying to keep things as much on schedule as possible, I talked to the lawyers, they're agreed. We usually do not have trial on Monday because I share one half of the other criminal calendar with my other colleague, Division II of the Superior Court. And that judge does her hearings in the morning, and I do mine in the afternoon, and so we usually take Monday off. I've talked to my colleagues, the other judges, and I said I really would like to try to rearrange my schedule, open some time up to give some more time to this trial to keep things as much on schedule as possible. And they've got great colleagues, and they've agreed. So they can cover my Monday calendar. We usually do it in this courtroom, but holding cells here, but we can do it in another courtroom. So long story short, we can have trial on Monday. The lawyers are in agreement. They're available. They understand the situation, and they're willing and eager to go ahead on Monday if possible. But that has not been a scheduled trial date. So I'm just raising that with you now. We'll talk about it again later today. What I want to know from you is if any of you have a problem with us having trial this coming Monday, which wasn't a previously scheduled trial date. Okay? So talk about that. I don't want to raise things and just put you on the spot and have you answer right away. Talk about that, think about it, and let me know your thoughts on that. Obviously, we'll talk about that sometime today because I want to know whether we're having trial on Monday. All right? Finally, today is Friday. What the schedule for today is, I really like to get people out of here early on a Friday afternoon. So we're going to go through the morning, we'll come back after lunch, and we'll go about 1:30 to 3, depending upon where we are on a witness. And then my plan is to hopefully adjourn for the day at 3 p.m. this afternoon, more or less. All right? Any questions about any of that so far? All right. Also, the jurors were allowed to ask questions while we were at the scene. You asked some good questions, and we answered those questions on the scene. But you've gone home now, and maybe overnight you thought about something else that you wanted to know about with respect to what you saw yesterday. If you have any more of those questions, write them down, and we will still be able to address them. What we're going to do this morning is witness Liz Huerta,
Yes,
Ms. Liz Huerta, who's the dispatcher. You may recall she didn't finish her testimony in her cross-examination because she had a personal matter that she had to attend to yesterday. She was able to do that, I assume, and so she's back here this morning. We're going to finish with her cross-examination, redirect examination, and then the state will recall Detective Ainza, who's still giving testimony when we adjourned yesterday morning. So that's the plan, at least for the start of today. All right? Good. Thank you. And then we could have the witness retake the witness stand. Thank you. Good morning. All right. I always remind every witness who comes back after an evening recess or so that we're not going to swear you in again, but you're still under oath. Thank you very much. All right, whenever you're ready, Ms. Lothar.
Thank you, Your Honor. So, ma'am, I'm going to give you back JJJ, the actual piece of evidence of your call sheet, to help you read it and answering any questions.
Thank you.
And I'll continue on with some publishing of some of that record. Again, I'm showing my notes. And so, let's move on to damage the original evidence. Thank you. I think we're getting a feel for what's going on, yes, as we proceeded through this, when you were testifying, different officers responding and dispatch acknowledging that. Is that correct, as we move our way down this page? And I'm on page 3 of the second incident, which will be number 61 on the bottom. Are you on that page?
Yes.
Thank you, ma'am. All right, and at the top of the page, starting at 1924 hours, this is a continuation of the page that we were working from. And so we're now into the evening, correct?
Correct.
Just to put everyone back where we were. And I'm looking down here where I have it highlighted for me to reference for January, let's see, for 1, 10/12, 10/15, for first degree homicide, admitting to shooting at the people. What is, again, I don't think any of us memorized it very well, but 10/12 and 10/15.
1012 is male subject and 1015 is prisoner.
Okay, make sure you speak up a little bit into that.
1012 is male subject and 1015 means prisoner.
Okay, so we got a prisoner at 21:21, correct?
Correct.
And so that's 9:21 p.m., correct?
Correct.
Okay. Is anywhere above it noting an arrest, a detention, to take, on this page at least? Was there anything above that?
Yes.
Okay, could you reference that? Where would that be?
At 1953, it says 11012 detained per 158. 158 is Sergeant Abraham Pacheco.
Okay, I'm pointing to it on the overhead. And is that the right location?
Yes.
All right, state it again now that I've located it. And so you got 1, 10, 12. What is that?
Detained.
All right, so meaning one person detained.
Yes.
Okay, for 158, what's that?
It's Sergeant Abraham Pacheco.
I'm just putting a little line there to reference it. Okay, and so that time is, what time is that in regular time?
That's going to be 7:53 p.m.
Okay. Is there any notation, it doesn't tell you which person, I think we could all guess which one it is, but is there any notation of a second subject being detained in this call sheet, whether it's this page or another page after? Any mention of a second subject?
I'm going to review the call sheet if that's okay.
Please do.
No, there's no mention of another person being detained.
Well, anytime there is a transportation, and I don't know, I forgot who drove Mrs. Kelly, but you can note taking a civilian in the vehicle at some point, aren't you?
Yes,
Okay, and you don't see it at all?
I do. You asked me if there was somebody detained. There was no other subject detained but Mr. Kelly.
Okay, where is the entry of the transportation of Mrs. Kelly? What's the first thing that's stated in there?
At 2122, it says 158 will do the transport and will interview the 101. That's the first mention that there will be a transport of Mrs. Kelly.
And that's the first mention of anything having to do with her, other than maybe speaking to the wife earlier, but this is the first sign of that, right?
There was a previous entry where they placed her in a unit to keep her comfortable.
Okay, can you show me where that is?
Give me a moment to locate it, please.
No problem, take your time.
At 1951, on page 60.
We're gonna go back a page.
I'm sorry, it was 1915, on still page 60.
Thank you. And 1915,
15, there's mention of they're exiting the residence with Miss Kelly in a unit.
okay, and which seconds, with 1915 and how?
With 12 seconds.
12. All right, go ahead and tell us what that sentence says.
Exit 42, 101 with us in unit.
Okay, now put it in English for us.
Exit residence with female subject with us in unit.
Okay. Didn't say comfortable, does it? Did you just put that in there?
I apologize, I recall the recordings. There was a transmission from Sergeant Rodriguez.
Is a police car comfortable? So it doesn't, let me strike that. I was kind of rhetorical, I apologize. But that doesn't say that on here. That was just your comment. So let's just take away and tell us what it says here.
You want me to repeat?
Yes.
Exit residence with female subject in unit.
Okay. So we have that at 1915 hours. So at 7:15 p.m. And then the first mention of arresting, detaining Mr. Kelly was where? Back on the next page or on this page also?
On page 61.
And the first mention is where?
It will be at 21:21 with 38 seconds. One male subject, prisoner.
Okay, say it as it's noted and then define it again.
1-10-12. I'm sorry, I lost my place. 1-10-12-10-15.
Okay, now say it again in regular language.
One male subject, prisoner.
Okay. So it's not noted that they've arrested him till after they've taken Miss Kelly out of the house and put her in the back of a car. Does that look right as far as the order?
Correct.
Okay, thank you. So 10-12 was what again?
Male subject,
Males, one man, and so we're dropping down a line to the highlighted. So that was one male subject. 10-15 was what?
prisoner.
Prisoner. And we already got the arrest. First degree homicide admitting to shooting at the people. Okay, right?
Correct.
At this point, this is the first entry confirming his arrest, correct? As far as you're concerned on dispatch.
That will be at 21-21-38. It is dispatch understanding. Once they call out 10-15, that means they're under arrest.
And which one are you pointing to?
21-38. Once they say 10-15, that means they're under arrest. One
And
prisoner.
within seconds, we get this narrative, right?
Correct.
Okay. So they kind of go together, but one's one entry. Are they different people stating it, or same people, or what?
It's the same person.
Okay. So you get, first we get an arrest, and then we have the reason for the arrest,
Correct.
in essence, making it simple. Okay. And on the second call, could you remind us the time that the first officer arrives back at Mr. Kelly's house?
For this call?
Yeah, this is the second visit. Yesterday, or when you were on the stand before, we talked about the first visit. But on this visit, in the evening, remind us the first time an officer is dispatched, or let's put it this way, has arrived at the scene of Mr. Kelly's house.
Hold on. Let me locate that.
Take your time.
It'll be at 18:06 and 54 seconds on page 59.
18:06. And then we have him arrested by 21:21. And 18:06 is when someone arrived, right?
Correct.
And they could be just standing there, whatever, but they have arrived at the home, correct?
Correct.
Okay. I just made a note of that on top of the page. And we're going to put officer arrived. And that was the sheriff, right?
Correct.
Okay. And then we're going to put DEF for defendant arrested. And we have the county attorneys arriving that evening around 10 or ish, 10 p.m., correct?
Correct.
We have George Silva and Kim Hunley at the scene now, correct?
They arrived at 21:30. The one you're pointing at is Kim Hunley 98. 98 means finished, done, clear scene.
Okay. And so when was it scene cleared? What time?
Right there at 22:10:41. That entry, CA George Silva 98, CA Kim Hunley 98, that means they cleared the scene.
Oh, so when did they arrive?
They arrived at 21:30 with 0 seconds was CA George Silva 97. 97 means arrived. We're on
the same
scene.
page?
Correct.
Okay, give me the time again.
21:30.
Thank you. that right? I wrote arrived and then they cleared it, right?
Correct.
Okay. So they were there for about 30, 40 minutes. Does that seem right?
Correct.
All right, I'm going to turn the page and just see if there's anything on here. What's mostly happening here? We're getting search warrants at the top end, correct? Search warrants,
Correct.
and they were noted and approved by this court, correct? And you noted it, that, and a search warrant has to be put together and then brought to the court, and then they're noting that they have the search warrants and letting you know, correct?
Yes, they're letting us know that the search warrant was approved.
Okay. And then we have crime scene there. What time was that? What's this one? Crime scene here with the 450 has been shut down. We're clearing. What does all that mean?
It says crime scene here with the 450 has been shut down. We're clearing 1942. It means crime scene here with the dead body has been shut down. We are clearing en route to the residence.
And then we have a section here about taking whatever evidence and taking it and securing it. We have some chatter on that page about the deceased. Do we have a time when they came to get the deceased from the scene?
On the same page, 62:01:32 with 39 seconds, they advise that at 1:25 a.m. the body was sealed inside a body bag and Martinez took custody of the 450, the dead body.
And who is Martinez?
It's Martinez Funeral Home,
Okay.
mortuary.
I just made a note, deceased removed at 1:32 and 39 seconds, correct?
Correct.
Let's turn to the bottom, number 63, the next page, page 5 of your report. There's some comments in there. So the first paragraph, Border Patrol called, advising the homeowner called, advising he shot something. He shot something. So dispatch did receive that information, in all fairness, correct?
Correct.
And then it went to all officers that this person, Mr. Kelly, supposedly admitted or confessed to shooting at this, or it was taken to that level, correct? Everyone is informed that he admitted to shooting the deceased, correct?
I do not recall what the dispatcher put out on the radio.
Okay.
With
But
this
we
call.
see- I apologize for cutting you off. Go ahead.
Oh, like I said, I don't recall what the dispatcher put out to the deputies on this call.
Well, we saw something on your last visit where O. Rodriguez blasted it out also, correct? Remember that?
Yes, he was requesting to confirm if those statements were made to Border Patrol.
Okay, can you reference that back to me? Was that on page 61 or 60? 61? I'm sorry, or 60, yes, 60. I'll let you locate it. You probably can read it better.
Thank you. At 18:42 and 41 seconds, Sergeant Omar Rodriguez requests for dispatch to confirm 1012 called 865 and told them he shot something. Check with 865. And that says confirming male subject call Nogales Border Patrol and told them he shot something. Check with Nogales Border Patrol.
Okay, so 865 is who?
Nogales Border Patrol.
Okay, so that's the department. And did you guys do that?
I do not recall the recordings for the phone calls if it was done.
Let's go from a different perspective. Start from there and tell me where you confirmed he admitted that.
There's a note at 19:52:08 seconds. They noted ranch liaison is Agent Jeremy Marcel, badge number November 379. I believe it's Logan, how you pronounce
Logan?
that name. Will send an email with contact
Okay?
info.
So we still don't have an answer yet, whether the subject did or did not confirm admitting, right? That doesn't give us that answer yet, correct?
Dispatch is not aware at this time.
Okay. So is there anything after that that would say, yes, he admitted, or no, that's not accurate?
The only note I see is at 21:21:46. That states for 1-10-12-10-15 for first-degree homicide, admitting to shooting at people, not knowing he struck them.
Who's that coming from?
Detective Ainsa.
Okay. So we don't know if he could call or confirmed. It's just what's being noted. He's just saying what? Say it slowly again one more time.
For 1-10-12-10-15,
Okay, stop there. Define it.
one male subject, prisoner, for first-degree homicide, admitting to shooting at the people, not knowing he struck them.
He hasn't been transported yet, right? This is about to happen. This is where they arrest him, right?
Correct.
And this is coming from a detective. Is he there at the scene yet?
Let me confirm.
Please take it.
Yes.
Okay. And
I'm sorry. Did you mean seen as the entirety of the call or at the crime scene?
at Mr. Kelly's home.
He's at the headquarters, the Nogales Sheriff's here in Nogales.
So he's not even there to talk to it. We don't know what information is he relying on, just what he's hearing from everyone in the officers. There's nothing confirming that they talked to Mr. Border Patrol Agent Marcel to confirm his comments. There's nothing saying one way or the other, is there?
Nothing was related to dispatch.
So we have one officer at the scene asking for confirmation, and please confirm that Mr. Kelly admitted to doing this, and then there doesn't appear to be any response to his inquiry as a confirmation at this point in time, correct? Nothing on point.
Not on the call card.
Thank you. Which would be one way of conveying it, not only to maybe the one officer that was asking, but to all officers that are on the scene, correct?
I'm sorry, can you repeat that question?
Using the radio, using your dispatch to communicate with the officers not only allows the communication go to the one officer that asked, which was O. Rodriguez, okay? And there's more than one Rodriguez here, so I'm using his initial. And so that it also conveys to all other officers that are manning this radio and this call, correct?
Correct.
So far as everyone knows, he admitted it, right? I mean, there's nothing there saying differently.
I do not recall if this was a radio transmission or it was given over the phone.
Okay, but what we're talking about today is what we have proof of right here.
Yes,
right?
but you're saying that this transmission was given out for all officers to hear. I can't confirm if it was on the radio or if he called into dispatch.
So you'll note both on here?
Yes.
Okay. And so when you respond, would you make a note of it?
No.
Okay. So we don't know one way or the other in communication whether or not a statement was made by Mr. Kelly that later was proven to be a false statement. We don't know if everyone got that message, do we? According to this.
No, I can't confirm.
So before Mr. Kelly is taken to the station, we know he's been arrested or detained, which is an arrest. He's not free to go. And Detective Anza is at the station, never made it to the scene at this point in time, correct?
No,
Is correct or not correct?
not correct.
Okay, confirm.
You
what
are
I'm
stating that Mr. Kelly was arrested at the scene and Detective Ainsa was never on scene.
wrong. I think I said that, but if you might have said it better. Thank you. All right, going back to the notes on the bottom, which is your page 5, marked as 63 on the bottom. Now, we have the, under comments, the first paragraph. Where's this paragraph coming? Border Patrol called advising, the homeowner called advising, a homeowner called advising he shot something at the address of the home, I guess. Okay, where did that first paragraph come from?
That's me typing in what I received. I received that phone call of Border Patrol advising of this message.
Okay. And again, that was not Jeremy Marcel that called you, right?
Correct.
Do you recall who it was?
I do not recall.
Okay. Then at 18:04 and 22 seconds, made contact with RP, reporting person, right? Now, which reporting person are we talking about at this point? Because I think we overlapped names the last time we talked. Who's the reporting person?
George Kelly?
Reporting person advised he needs an officer. So this is when you were able to make a call to him, right, after he spoke to the Border Patrol liaison. Then you were advised trying to reach him, correct? Whoever did this call?
Yes.
Okay. And it wasn't you personally, was it?
No.
Okay. So y'all reached out to Mr. Kelly, and he was advising that earlier today there was units at the Border Patrol agents investigating, at the address, I'm sorry, advising earlier today there was units at the Border Patrol agents investigating a 4 or 5 guy. What's that mean? Or 4 to 5 meaning numbers?
Correct.
Okay, but 4 to 5 guys, which could be plural, in his property. I advised him I was familiar with the incident, so that person that took the call or called him was aware of the earlier call.
Correct.
Okay, which was that 2 in the afternoon call, correct? Reporting person, Mr. Kelly, advised he cannot remember deputies' names. However, he remembers it was 2 females and 2 males. Reporting person was evasive and was not willing to give me any information as to why he needed a deputy. Reporting person told me, so he did say he needed a deputy, but he was being evasive on the phone as to why. Does that sound about right, what's going on at this point?
Correct.
Reporting person told me that he knew anything he said could be used against him. So we know now that he knows there's a body, and you're whoever the dispatch was that called him, trying to get information from him. Correct? The reporting person, is that correct?
I cannot confirm if my dispatcher knew that there was a body.
All right, well, let's keep reading. Reporting person advised he just saw something about 15 minutes ago. I asked if there was a need for any medical, and he stated EMT cannot help. Okay? I asked reporting person to give me more context as to why he needed a deputy. I told him it was for deputies and his safety. Reporting person made reference to an incident which occurred, as he said, last spring. There was a female deceased in a vehicle near the area. It was just down the road from him, another incident. And did you have a chance to listen to the recording?
Which
This
recording? Yes.
Okay. And that dispatch acknowledged that she was aware of that other incident, right? So
Correct.
She knew he was referencing a dead body that was found on the property right next to his property. Okay? And she knew that, right? According to the recording. She said, I was familiar with that incident.
She confirmed she was familiar with the incident, not confirming that there was a dead body.
She was familiar with the incident. It is the same situation as that. Reporting person advised it was the same situation. He stated a body was found. And what is this? NAM/George Kelly. Is that
Name, George Kelly.
Okay. He is sure EMT or ambulance cannot help anymore. Reporting person does not know who it is. Okay. And that's recorded, this summary of this, right?
Correct.
Okay. And then we drop down to the next note. Reporting person then advised there is no signs of blood. So he obviously found a body. We later learned that. And he cannot see any blood, according to this. According to the eyes of Mr. Kelly, correct?
According to the recordings, correct.
Right. Well, this is communication from Mr. Kelly, right? We're still talking with him, and that's a note made about it, right?
Correct.
And then he says, and it might be an animal laying face down. There was a little bit of not a mineral, not a vegetable, whatever, but an animal. He was being evasive, right? You remember that call?
I remember him saying that, yes, correct.
Okay. We won't go. Reporting person kept telling me if I understood what he was saying. He's trying to tell the person, the dispatcher on the phone that made the call to him, he's trying to hint about it, right? But he's not being straightforward about it, correct?
Objection calls for speculation.
Sustained.
And then let's see, then we go down to the next note, and we're at 1845:04. Initial call at 1440 hours. The U.S. Border Patrol advised they got a call from the rancher who advised they were shooting at him and he was shooting back, right?
Correct.
Okay, and that's, who made that reference?
That's dispatcher Alexis Siriol.
I'm sorry, say that again?
Dispatcher Alexis Siriol.
Thank you. Okay. So someone put a note in there saying, I remember that earlier call, and this is the info that we also have, right?
Yes.
Then let's just go on to the next one, 1858. Supervisor Leugen called and advised the rancher from the sagebrush, called their ranch liaison again, and advised he possibly struck something and needs an officer there now. So here is a transmission of something that got jumbled up somehow and wasn't the actual statement made to Border Patrol liaison Jeremy Marcel. And here is another note of supposedly him confessing, correct?
Objection, Your Honor, compound.
Sustained. You can ask other questions if you break it down.
Thank you, Judge. So, who made this note? 1858, I'll reword it.
Again, dispatcher Alexis Siriol.
Okay. This did not come directly from the ranch liaison, did it?
The note, no, states Supervisor Leugen was advising her, the rancher from Sagebrush.
Okay, so now we have Supervisor Leugen. How's that help you out a little bit? Took me a bit. Now we have a name where the source is coming from that conveyed an inaccurate statement.
Objection, Your Honor.
And that could be where the other sources are coming from, right?
Objection, Your Honor, calls for conclusion and also compound.
Sustained as to the form of the question.
Sergeant?
Sorry. Sustained as to the form of the question.
So we have a name now, Leugen, could have been the source of this inaccurate information, correct?
Same objection, Your Honor.
If she can answer.
He is the supervisor talking at the time with Alexis Siriol. I cannot confirm if it's the same supervisor that reported it on the earlier call at 1440.
And we don't have any other names noted in there of contact from Border Patrol, do we?
Correct.
Can I have the recorded call, please?
Sure. We had planned to play it. I've got it queued up if you'd like me to play it.
I would love for you to play.
Sure. It's already admitted.
Yes, Your Honor, we're going to go ahead and publish with your permission. What is it, states?
It states 56, and Your Honor, we have copies of the transcript for the jurors. It is a little difficult to follow.
You want those passed out?
I have no objection.
All right. And 56 is in evidence. Did I hear you correctly?
Oh, we provided them to the JAA this morning, Your Honor, in anticipation of playing this.
And this is an exhibit already in evidence?
Yes, sir, it just wasn't published.
All right. And again, I think I've heard this call before. It's a relatively brief call.
It is.
And so you're going to hear the recorded part of the call, the recording of it. You're also going to be given transcripts. Where you go? Oh, there he is. And again, remember the court's instruction, the transcripts are demonstrative only. I think it's all in English. There's no translation. So if what you hear in the recording is different from what's on the transcripts, what you hear is controls, and that's because the recording, not the transcript, the recording is the evidence. Thank you. No, yeah.
Whenever the court's ready.
Make sure we have everyone.
Yes, please.
There's a short one over there. You can give them this. Jose, there's a short one, but you can give that to them. Yeah. Oh, they got it. Never mind. All right. Everybody have a transcript? All right. You can go ahead and play the recording.
Hello?
Hi, sir. I'm calling from the Syracuse County Sheriff's Office.
Yes.
Hi. I'm just calling because we received a report from Border Patrol.
Yeah.
So I was just calling to get more information. So what happened?
You're going to have to send an officer out here.
Okay, what's going on?
I can't.
I'm sorry?
It's very serious, ma'am, and I can't. I'm not going to talk over the telephone.
Okay, I understand it's serious, but I need more context in order to send a deputy.
Okay, fine. It's going to be,
Go ahead, you can talk to me. What's going on?
yeah, I know I can talk to you, but you're responsible for what I say, and I'm responsible for what I say.
Can you give me a little context of what happened? What's going on? You told us
I'm
that
not-
what did you shoot?
Oops. Pardon me, Your Honor.
I didn't shoot at I haven't said I shot at anything.
Okay, well, that's what Border Patrol told us, so that's why I'm just asking you.
Yeah. Y'all guys, the Nogales Sheriff Department had 4 or 5 guys out here this afternoon investigating a Border Patrol drug running incident. And I don't know if I can't remember the officer's name. There was 2 gentlemen and 2 young ladies. Maybe third. You know who I'm talking about? They came out to 100 Willow Cross Circle.
You mean for my deputies, correct?
Yeah, they were Nogales.
Yes, aware of what happened earlier.
You're aware? Okay, then they're aware of what happened, and I don't want to get you in trouble, and I don't want to get me in trouble, but I don't want to break the law or anything like that. So what I'm telling you is that we need a sheriff deputy out here, 100 Willow Cross Circle, immediately, and that's all I can say, ma'am.
Okay, is anyone hurt? I need to know because if someone's hurt, I need to send an ambulance too.
There's no.
Okay, do you feel more comfortable talking to a deputy over the phone?
Well, in other words, okay, you know the thing. You have the right to remain silent, and anything you can,
I understand.
you say can will be held against you. And I'm not admitting to anything I've done, but all those things tend to add up, and I don't know what happened. I just know what I just saw about 15 minutes ago, and it's something that an ambulance cannot help. EMTs cannot help. There's nothing out here that can be aided by EMT or emergency services.
Okay, I understand that you don't want to give me a lot of details, but what you are requesting an officer from me, so needed to know for their own safety and your safety a little bit of what's happening, what's going on.
Okay, I'll put it like this. Last spring, out here, there was a pickup found on East Sagebrush with a dead lady in it.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you knew of that or not.
Yes, sir. I'm aware of what happened.
Okay, it's a situation similar to that. How's that?
Okay.
You saw it, you understand what I'm saying? It's a situation exactly like that.
Okay.
And so that's going to require the sheriff to come out here.
Okay. Can you tell me a description of is the
No,
vehicle?
I don't have a description. There's not a vehicle.
Okay.
The only thing that I was referring to in conjunction with that
Accident?
was the body.
Okay.
You got it?
Okay. All right. Well, okay. Can I have your name?
Yes, George Kelly.
George Kelly. Okay, George, would you, if my deputy goes over there, would you take him to whatever it is
Yes,
that you
yes,
found?
yes. I have it marked. I have a flashlight on over it, because it's going to be dark when he gets here probably, but I'll take it to him.
And you are sure an EMT cannot help?
I am positive. I have a medical background. An EMT cannot help.
Okay. Do you know whoever it is that you saw?
No, I do not know. I didn't say it was anybody. I just said it was a body.
Okay. All right. Okay. All right.
I'm not trying to be smart, ma'am. I'm just
I
trying to.
understand. You're trying to be careful, and I get that. However, I hope you understand that on my end, I have to take care of my deputies too. So I
Yes, I
just need a
understand.
little bit more context as to why you needed a deputy to head out there.
Now you know that there is a body here.
Okay. All right. Does it look someone?
And it's not alive, so you asked if you need EMT. I said no. I'm sure a coroner will be involved sooner or later.
I understand. George, can you tell me something? Is it discolored from somewhere?
Is it discolored?
Yes.
What does that mean?
Has it been there for a while? Can you tell?
From what? In that I only approach the body to make sure that the animal is not a vegetable or a mineral. The animal wasn't alive and it was not alive.
Okay.
There were no signs. There was no signs of blood. There was just an animal laying face down.
An animal?
An animal, and you know what an animal is. It's not a vegetable or a mineral.
Okay.
It's a body, and you know what I'm talking
I
about.
understand what you're talking about, George. Okay, I'm gonna send the deputy then over to your house so you can meet them over to wherever you found what it is.
Okay.
Okay?
And now, maybe one of the deputies around here, they know how to get here, because it's 100 Willacross Circle, and it's kind of hard to find. It's a ramp right on the border.
I
So,
one of my deputies that responded earlier going over your way.
that's good. You do that, they know how to get here, and I'll have the gate open.
Okay, sounds good, George. Thank you. Thank you very much.
I appreciate your help and your patience, and I'm sorry if
No
I...
problem. I understand.
Okay,
Okay,
bye.
thank you.
All right.
Bye-bye.
So dispatch hears him denying any omission from shooting at something, at whatever the subject was, the deceased. It's stated in his call, he never admitted that when it was reported that he did. So, correct?
Objection, Your Honor. I think that calls for a conclusion.
Well, he never admitted,
I'll reword it.
he never went, I'm a little confused, a little vague.
I'll
when-
reword it.
Yeah, okay.
Let me break that down, that's my bad.
Sustained, but you can break it down. with
Yeah, I'll
the
break it
question.
down. Thank you, Judge. We have Mr. Kelly in his call denying admitting to and telling anyone that he shot at someone, correct?
Correct.
Okay. And yet, this communication of his admission continues as we noted it through the transcript, the call sheet. We noted that, correct?
Noted what?
That there was still statements being made about Mr. Kelly admitting to doing this, correct?
There was one statement made by Detective Ainsa.
Well, we had Rodriguez inquire on that too, right?
He requested to confirm.
Right, so they already know, they have information that Mr. Kelly admitted to doing or admitted to shooting at this person. And yet, right from the beginning, before you even dispatched, and not you, just your department, okay? Referencing you or your department. Before dispatch even sends the first officer out, he denies saying it. And yet we still have discussion of that afterwards, correct?
Same objection, Your Honor.
Overruled if she can answer.
The first call, we never made contact with Mr. Kelly. It was third-party information.
I'm talking about referencing when you did this call, what we just heard on audio, okay? Now we got his words, right? Mr. Kelly's words was the caller on this audio we just listened to, correct?
Correct.
Okay. And when the dispatch conveyed that you admitted to doing it, he denied it right away, correct? He said, I never said that, right?
The recording shows the dispatcher letting him know why we're calling him, because Border Patrol relayed the information that he reached out to them, that he shot at something.
And he denied that, correct?
In this call, yes.
Okay, so first thing happens is you get a call from Layugan or whoever in Border Patrol, and not directly from Agent Marcel, correct? We established that, correct?
Correct on this call.
Yes. And this is the evening call that this was recorded, correct?
Correct.
Because now we have a dead body, correct? And we did not have a dead body at 2 in the afternoon, correct?
Correct.
Okay. So after getting that information and it being conveyed back to Mr. Kelly that you admitted it, he denied it, correct? I said, I didn't say that.
Your Honor, asked and answered.
She never gave me an answer.
Overruled, she can answer.
Thank you, Judge.
I'm sorry, can you repeat the question?
Okay. I'm trying to go chronological order here. And so I established in the question before, just confirm that you're with me, that the call came in from a Border Patrol person other than the liaison. And the dispatch picked up some information that the subject, Mr. Kelly, admitted to shooting at something, correct?
Correct.
Now you have next thing happens, and you guys were advised to try to reach out and call him. Someone advised to do that, and that's what y'all did, and we got this recording, correct?
Correct.
Okay, you're following me. The next thing happens is the call is made, correct?
Correct.
And it's mentioned, but that you told someone you did this, that you and I'm paraphrasing, that you shot at someone, and he denied it, correct?
Correct.
And then my next point to be made was, yet this communication and admission that he shot someone continued in inquiry as far as you can see. You could see it noted in the call sheets, correct?
Continuance on the phone call or throughout the entire incident?
The incident of information still being conveyed that he admitted it, even though he denied it to dispatch.
I cannot recall if dispatch continued on the radio to say that he shot someone. There are radio entries from deputies including that one of Sergeant Rodriguez to confirm, and including that of Detective Ainsa.
Right. And of course, you can't read the officer's reports that might note that he admitted it, right? You don't get to see that.
I am a record holder, and have access to that if need be for
All right.
recording purposes.
And at any point, did you look to note that more than one officer noted in the beginning that supposedly Mr. Kelly admitted to shooting when that's not what was said? Did you ever see that admission in any of the other officers' reports?
I did not read the other officers' reports, no.
Okay, so you have access, but you didn't do it. Okay, I
No.
get it. Did you being you or your department, take the time to let the officers know that he denied admitting to doing it?
I do not recall what radio transmission was given by the dispatcher.
I'm asking you, based on Mr. Kelly's denial of saying that, did you or have any record in your report here telling everyone that he is denying it?
There is no record because we do not document what the dispatcher tells the deputy over the radio. We only document what a deputy is conveying over the radio to dispatch.
You documented in the notes, let me go back to the report, since you still have it in front of you. On your page 5, you commented, not you, I'm going to reference you as your department, okay? So I apologize, I'm not pointing a finger at you, okay? You are a supervisor, and I'm just using you to illustrate your department, okay? Under 1804, a whole narrative of this call, correct?
Correct.
And I'm just going to put it on the board just to point this out to the jurors so they know what I'm talking about. And I believe I'm referencing that big fat paragraph right there, correct?
Correct.
That's the call from Mr. Kelly and a narrative about it, correct?
Correct.
Anywhere in that paragraph, did someone note that, wait a minute, he denied shooting at this person?
No.
Wouldn't that, and again, this is not a blame on you, so I apologize if you're the one having to answer these questions. You didn't write that paragraph, did you?
No.
Okay. But wouldn't it be just as important when there's information saying he did claim to shoot someone and then he tells you, no, he didn't say that? Wouldn't it be just as important in this summary to put that down on his defense?
It's a summary. Sometimes things are missed. Dispatch is not 100%. I wouldn't be able to tell you what was important and what wasn't important on this call.
To the person that being accused would hope that that would have been documented in being important, wouldn't you agree? If it affected you or your family or anyone else, wouldn't you agree that would be important?
It was documented. It wasn't on this call sheet, but it was documented on the recordings.
Yes, but meanwhile, patrol officers, sheriffs, border patrol that are at the scene, detectives, they're going on the information that he admitted to doing it, and now we got an investigation going forward with that reasoning.
I'm not too sure what information patrol had. They get in contact with agents that are there. They are on foot. They're driving. They're most of the time they're not allowed to look at their computer system while they're driving. They're on foot. They don't take their computer system when they're walking.
Therefore, wouldn't it be very important, with that in mind and what you just said, to verbally let the units know that was inaccurate information according to Mr. Kelly? He's saying he never said that. However you want to word it. You could have brought it to their busyness, whether they were driving or whatever they were doing, investigating, and let them know so they could hear it, right?
Your Honor, objection asked and answered and argumentative.
Sustained.
Nothing further.
Redirect.
Thank you, Your Honor. Ms. Huerta, do you have the transcript in front of you?
I do not.
You do not?
No.
Would that be helpful?
Here, she can have mine. That's right. All right, I've got my copies before the witness.
Thank you. Ma'am, could you turn to page 2?
Yes.
Line 3. Can you read that?
I didn't shoot any. I haven't said I shot at anything.
In that line, did the defendant deny that he shot at someone, or did he just say he never said that?
He said he never said he shot at anything.
Now, on your call log, the initial call you got from the first call that day, do you have call detail report 1 in front of you?
Yes.
What was the initial call from Border Patrol?
What page was that? I'm sorry.
It's the first call detail report. Do you have exhibit JJJ? She has it.
Do you
I
mean
believe
page
it's in the comments.
63?
Probably on the comments?
Yes.
Yeah, can you turn to that? What was the initial call you got that day?
Border Patrol called advising the homeowner, called advising he shot something at 100 East Sagebrush Road, but did not want to state what it was. Male subject's number is 520-841-3999.
Is that, what's the time of that call?
Go back, I'm sorry.
That's okay.
$17:56.
So that's
hours.
actually the second time that deputies responded to the scene was based on that call, right?
Correct.
I'm actually talking about the first call detail report. Do you have that one from
Yes.
the earlier call to the residents?
I do.
What's the first call, what's the first thing Border Patrol told you when they called in that initial call detail report?
Do you want me to read it?
Yes, please.
U.S. Border Patrol called and advised of a possible active shooter in the area of 100 East Sagebrush Road. U.S. Border Patrol advised the RP was unsure if he was getting shot at as well. USBP advised the RP's name is Alan Kelly. At 14:36 hours is when the RP advised he thought the group of people that were running shooting at him.
And at some point during that call report, did you also get reports from Border Patrol that Mr. Kelly advised he was shooting back?
On the comments?
Yes. And have you reviewed the phone calls?
Yes. I've reviewed the phone calls. I don't see it noted here.
Would the phone calls refresh your recollection regarding what happened that day?
Yes.
And did you provide a thumb drive to the county attorney's office with all of the dispatch recordings and all of the phone calls?
Yes.
This is going to be marked as Exhibit 149. And if I could just show this to just the witness. And counsel, of course. Ma'am, can you see what's displayed on your screen?
Yes.
Does this look familiar?
Yes.
And I've gone to another screen with 3 folders. Does this look familiar?
Yes.
Going into the first folder, does that look familiar?
Yes.
Scrolling through. Does that look familiar?
Yes.
Going into the second folder. Does that all look familiar?
Yes.
And does this contain all the dispatch recordings and phone calls from the day of the incident?
Yes.
And would it refresh your recollection to listen, oh, sorry, one more from the final day. Does this look familiar?
Yes.
And are these all the recordings and dispatch recordings, 911 calls and recorded calls from the Sheriff's Department for that day?
Yes.
And would it refresh your recollection to hear the first call that day?
Yes.
Your Honor, I don't know how you'd like me to play this for this witness, or if you'd like me to, the witness has laid the foundation. We could certainly move to admit it, and she could listen to it, or we could give her a headset.
What's the evidence?
The call from Border Patrol,
Where is the evidence?
it's on this thumb drive that I have just shown the witness on the screen.
Well, I'm going to object because just saying something looks familiar, I don't understand how she could identify this.
Sustained is the lack of foundation.
Could you tell us, did you provide the documents that I just showed you on the screen to the county attorney's office?
I did.
And you're the custodian of records for the Sheriff's Department, correct?
Correct.
And are all of these records kept in the ordinary course of business?
Correct.
And have you actually reviewed the calls from Border Patrol?
Yes.
And do you remember the call right now as you sit here?
Yes.
Do you remember all the details of the call?
Not all the exact details, but majority, yes.
Okay. Would it be helpful to hear the call to refresh your recollection?
Yes.
Your Honor, I believe I've laid the appropriate foundation that this is the information she provided to the county attorney's office on a thumb drive.
Your Honor, she said it would be helpful if she could review it, but that doesn't mean to review it in front of the jurors until she has a chance to review it.
Well, she said that she remembered the phone call and maybe not all the details. So I think the proper way to do this is ask the questions. Let's see what she can remember, and let's see what she can't remember. She may remember enough or sufficient amount or all of it so that we don't need to refresh her recollection. So
Sure.
you can ask questions. So the objection is sustained in part.
Ms. Huerta, do you recall if Border Patrol told the Sheriff's Department on that occasion that the defendant indicated he was being shot at and that he was shooting back?
Yes.
And was that contained in the call?
Yes.
And was that the first call of the day from Supervisor Leyugan from the Border Patrol?
Yes.
Does anything that Mr. Kelly says in his 911 call dispute that initial call? Let me turn you to page 2. I didn't shoot at any, I haven't said I shot at anything. Does I haven't said I shot at anything mean that he didn't shoot at anything?
Your Honor, I'm going to object because, first of all, these are two separate incident calls, and the denial of shooting anything came from the evening of discovering of a body, not of the early calls to Border Patrol, which is not this Border Patrol agent. And that was the reporting of 5 people running across his property armed. And then, so I'm going to object to the
misrepresentation of this information, but it's argumentative, and I believe it's going to confuse the jurors.
Your Honor, I think the language speaks for itself. We know what happened earlier in the day. We know what the call was earlier in the day. And the defense's argument is that the sheriff's department didn't appropriately put out language saying that what they'd reported earlier was incorrect. That's just not true.
Well, Mr. Kelly's 911 call is in the record. That's been admitted. The jury's heard that. You've asked this witness, the state's asked this witness about what she recalls about what he said about shooting or not shooting. She recalled it, and she testified. So that set of facts is in the record. There was an objection by the state when defense counsel was going into an area that was argumentative, and I sustained it. These things are in the record, all right? What the witness remembers about the first call, what's in the record is what obviously Mr. Kelly said to the dispatcher. That's the recording you just heard. Counsel are free to argue those matters in closing argument, but they're in the record, so any inferences or arguments that can be made from those discussions can be made in argument in closing arguments, and that's why I sustained the objection that the state made to the final set of questions that defense counsel asked. So for that reason, the objection is sustained as being argumentative.
Thank you, Your Honor. Ms. Huerta, could you turn to page 3 of the transcript? And on page 3 of the transcript at line 6, did Mr. Kelly indicate, I'm not admitting to anything I've done, but all those things tend to add up?
Correct.
Does that sound like a denial to you?
Objection, argumentative.
Sustained for the same reasons. You can argue that both counsel can argue the inferences from these statements to the jury in closing argument. And then what inferences, if any, to be drawn from that, it will be up to the jury to decide.
Ms. Lothorpe asked you repeatedly if the defendant denied something. Do you recall those questions?
Yes.
Based on what you've just read in the transcript, was your answer that Mr. Kelly denied something accurate?
Objection asked and answered.
Well, that objection's overruled because that was answered on cross-examination. So I'll allow the state to re-ask the question. Can you ask the question again?
Sure. Ms. Lothorpe asked you repeatedly on cross-examination if Mr. Kelly denied shooting. Is that accurate? Did he? And I think she asked the question multiple ways.
Well,
I think she first asked it. Let me
now the
repeat.
question's getting very complicated.
Sure.
As I recall, the questions were asked in cross-examination. Isn't it true that in this call that we heard, he denied shooting and the witness answered yes? So that's in the record. Now,
Based on page 2.
Your Honor, for correction, it was denied making any such statement.
all right,
Yes.
very well.
Has nothing to do with
You can
the
ask
issue.
a question about why she said yes, to try to follow up to the cross-examination.
Sure.
But the question was asked and answered, but you can follow up as to why she said that.
And Ms. Huerta, does this transcript, does this recording indicate that the defendant denied anything?
Your Honor, this is going to be speculative.
Well, it's her interpretation. Again, it's her interpretation of what he said, and she's given the answer. But you can ask why she gave that answer. Otherwise, we'll move on. And again, these are all inferences from these phone calls that counsel can argue in the closing argument to the jury, and then it'll be up to the jury to decide what inferences, if any, to draw. But I'll allow you to ask why she interpreted it as yes, because that answer was in the record.
Now that you've reviewed the transcript, Ms. Huerta, do you believe it's accurate what you told defense counsel, that Mr. Kelly denied?
I believe I said he denied to the statement that Border Patrol had said. you verify that?
Okay, so you believe that he said he denied saying he struck something?
Yes, when the dispatcher asks him or tells him that the reason why we're calling him, he denies that he said anything it doesn't say to Port Order, but he just denies he said anything.
So he denies he made the statement?
I'm assuming, I don't know, I just know that he said he didn't say anything.
Okay. We spent a lot of time looking at the call detail reports.
Oh, I'm sorry, I kind of lost track of time here, I apologize. So it's time for our mid-morning break. I think we've gone a little bit past, and we got you in here a little bit early. I'm sorry, I've lost track of time. So we'll take a 30-minute break. It's about 10 to 10. We'll be back at 10:20 to resume the testimony of this witness. We're in recess until 10:20. anybody here? Yeah, here goes Mr. Keeler. All right, you can bring in the jury. Yes, please. Please rise. Please be seated. The record is show the presence of all the jurors, counsel, and the defendant. Witness is back on the witness stand. Members of the jury, I don't know if it's too early, but have you had any thoughts about Monday?
Yes.
Okay. I'm sorry, I can't hear you.
We have a question.
You have a question?
Is deliberation included in next week's schedule, or just the defense or the prosecution rest is included in your?
Well, great question, very fair question. Here's the, and the answer is I don't know, but the reason I don't know is as follows. Here's the sequence of the trial that remains, okay? The state will finish its case in chief, what we call the case in chief. That's all the evidence they intend to produce in their case in chief. Then the defense has the right to present a defense. Remember, a defendant never has any obligation to present any evidence whatsoever. So that having been said, they wait and see until the state's case is over. They wait until then to decide what they need to do and what they don't need to do. And then they make that decision. So anyway, after the state's case in chief, the defense has a right to present a case. And how long that's going to take, the duration of that is unknown because they don't know that until the state finishes its case. Then, if the defense presents a case, the state has the right to produce a rebuttal case. The state has the burden of proof, so they get to go last, and that a rebuttal case would be in response to the evidence or any evidence that the defense may have produced. So all that has to happen, and then what happens when all the evidence is in, then the court gives you final jury instructions, like the preliminary instructions, but these are the final instructions that control. They're a little bit more involved in the preliminary instructions. We have to have some time, once all the evidence is to decide what are the appropriate instructions. So I have to have some meetings with the lawyers about that. And then we have final jury instructions, and then we have closing arguments. State gives a closing argument, defense gives a closing argument, the state has a rebuttal closing argument. After all that is done, that is when we then select who the alternates are, excuse the alternates from deliberations, and then you go to deliberate. So all of that has to happen before the case gets to you for your deliberation. How much time that takes is unknown, okay? But, out of an abundance of caution, because I want to try to use as much time to be able to come in as close as possible before the April 19th date that I gave you, and I don't know if it'll be possible or not, but to try to make that happen as much as possible, I've arranged to move things on my calendar and have other people cover. So that's why I suggested using Monday. So the answer to your question is all those things have to happen. I just don't know.
We feel that probably it's going to continue on until Friday, maybe closing, the two parties are going to rest by Friday, and it's going to continue until next week, we think. 2 weeks anyway. So we're going to say that we
Okay. That's fine. That's what I needed to know. And that's consensus of the jury? All right, fair enough. Thank you for letting us know. All right, well, I'll discuss that further with the parties, and we'll see what we're going to do.
And also, if you come back with any more information, we'll take another tally. Like, if you.
Oh, I see.
If you talk with them and you decide something else, let us know so we can do another.
Good. All right, that's fair enough. Fair enough. Thank you for that other information. And I'll discuss it with the parties, and we'll decide what we're going to do. Great. Good. All right. Witness back on the witness stand, and you can resume redirect examination.
Thank you, Your Honor. We were talking about these calls from the Border Patrol that came in from Supervisor Leeugen before the break. Do you recall that?
Correct.
And we were talking about Sergeant Rodriguez's request to confirm the comment from Border Patrol. Do you remember that?
Yes.
Okay. And so if I could have the screen. I think we're looking at defense JJJ. Am I on? Oh. Helps if you plug it in. So, just a refresher on how these work. Can you tell us the first column? What is the first column?
That's the dispatcher's name.
Second column?
The timestamp,
Third column?
the date,
And then the fourth column?
the unit number.
So is that the officer's badge number?
Yes.
Or a dispatcher's number or something else?
Yeah, it could be a dispatcher, deputy.
Or
assistant unit
another
number.
agency,
Yes.
something like that? Okay. And then on the far right, is that the comment?
Yes.
Okay. And so I think you said with defense counsel that you believe that Sergeant Rodriguez was asking dispatch to confirm that Border Patrol told you that the defendant said he shot something. Is that right?
Correct.
And he wanted you to check with Border Patrol to make sure that was accurate.
Yes.
And then down below, you talked about a couple of comments. Does this comment at 18:45, just a few minutes after that request from Sergeant Rodriguez, respond to his request?
Yes.
And can you tell the jury what the dispatcher's conveying to Sergeant Rodriguez with this comment?
She's conveying the first initial call. She states the time, the first call at 14:40 hours, that they advised they got a call from the rancher who advised they were shooting at him and he was shooting back.
And did you listen to this call?
Yes.
And is that accurate?
Yes.
And then the next comment is at 18:58. Is this another responsive comment to the request by Sergeant Rodriguez?
Yes.
And what is this comment conveying to Sergeant Rodriguez? Is this about the second call, or the second, and when I say call, I mean the second time Border Patrol called, not the second call, but the second incident?
Yes.
Okay. And what is she conveying to Sergeant Rodriguez in this particular?
That at 17:56 hours, the supervisor, Leeugen, called and advised the rancher from Sagebrush called their ranch liaison again and advised he possibly struck something and needs an officer there now. And subject was being intentionally vague.
And then a few minutes later, your dispatcher actually talks to Mr. Kelly, is that right?
Correct.
And she has a conversation with Mr. Kelly as well.
Correct.
And does your dispatcher describe Mr. Kelly also as evasive?
I'm objecting to the line of questioning as leading.
Sustained.
what does your dispatcher say in her comments 1804 regarding the dispatcher on line 1, 2, 3, 4?
I'm sorry, can you repeat the question?
Sure. Can you see 1804?
Yes.
Do you see line 1, 2, 3, 4, 5? What does your dispatcher say about the reporting party and how he's interacting with her?
RP was evasive and not willing to give me any said could be used against him.
Okay.
I'm sorry. Any information as to why he needed a deputy.
Okay. Did you refresh your recollection regarding whether, by listening to some calls, regarding whether you actually connected with Border Patrol on Sergeant Rodriguez's request to make another contact with them?
Yes.
And can you tell me, did your dispatch department actually reach out again to Border Patrol to attempt to verify the information directly with the ranch liaison?
Yes.
And when did that happen?
Let me locate it, sorry. At 19:52 with 8 seconds, there was a conversation noted. The ranch liaison is Agent Jeremy Marcel, November 379. Lagan will send an email with contact info.
And is that the information I've just highlighted here?
Yes.
Is that, and that's at 1952, you said?
Yes.
And did you review that phone call?
Yes.
And was that accurate, that they were going to send an email with the contact info?
Yes.
And that information isn't detailed in your radio calls or in your, and when I mean that information, I mean whether those emails actually happened or that contact actually happened wouldn't be documented in your call logs or in your call detail reports, correct?
Correct.
And earlier you said sometimes deputies and other agencies have contact that you're not part of in terms of dispatch, is that right?
Correct.
So that could have happened here and it wouldn't be detailed in the report, correct?
Correct.
Now I just want to clean up a few details from earlier. And this is a small note, but I recall defense counsel asking you about these contacts between Sergeant Rodriguez and dispatch regarding the body starting around 1821, 1824, or 1824. Is that right?
Correct.
Do you recall that?
Correct.
And then at some point she indicated that Sergeant Rodriguez later detailed that he was en route to the call at 1837, which was after the information he put in. Do you remember that questioning?
I do not recall.
Was it actually Sergeant Rodriguez who said that he was en route to the call at 1837?
No, it was, this states it was Detective Mario Barba.
So, and when it's en route to the call, does that necessarily mean you're going to the scene? Could it also mean you're going to the station or some other location?
Correct.
And this time was definitely not Sergeant Rodriguez, though, is that right?
Correct.
And the number that's on there, that's the deputy's badge number, is that right?
Yes.
And that's how you know that's Detective Barba?
Yes.
There was also a reference, I think it was on the first call log. Could you flip to the first call log? And it's page 2 of that call log. there was a reference at 1606 by dispatcher Cañas about a coyote.
Yeah.
Are you familiar with who that relates to?
The word coyote,
Yes.
it's a street name, an
Is this-
actual street.
Is this a deputy calling off duty at his house?
No, this is a deputy. We asked for a welfare check on them. They said they were okay. Their location was Calle Coyote.
Okay, great. Thank you. And then there was some conversation about who is reporting party and who is complainant in the comments on the call log. Do you recall that?
Yes,
Do you all use reporting party and complainant necessarily always to relate to the person who made the call?
not always.
Do you have to read it in context to figure out who they're talking about?
Yes.
The 911 call we've been talking about, who initiated that call?
It was dispatcher Ivana Cañas.
So that's not a call that was received, that's a call your dispatcher made, correct?
Correct.
I don't have anything else, thank you.
Any questions for this witness from any members of the jury? Very well, seeing none. Thank you very much. You may step down and you're excused. State can call its next witness.
State's going to recall Detective Ienza.
Come on up. Yes, sir. And you obviously remember that, I'll take that. You're still under oath. Yes, sir. Let's see. Hold on. All right. This is the exhibit, JJJ. We need to collect we're going to collect the transcripts. All right, you can continue. Whenever you're ready, you can continue with your direct examination.
Good morning again, Detective Ienza.
Good morning.
Yesterday, we did a lot of exhibits. You recall that yesterday?
Yes, sir.
Today, we're going to go through the timeline and go through what your involvement in this investigation was, okay?
That's
And I may refer to some of the exhibits, but we'll try to keep that to a minimum. But let's start off. Let's start off by first having you introduce yourself to the jury again.
good morning again. My name is Jorge Ainza. Last name is Ainza. I'm one of the detectives assigned to the Santa Cruz County Sheriff's Office Criminal Investigations Division.
Give us a bird's eye view of your career path at the Sheriff's Department.
So I began my career back in 2006. I started as a detention officer. I attended what's called the Correctional Officer Training Academy. It was a 9-week academy, and I successfully graduated from that. I was there for approximately 18 months at the detention facility. Then, in the early year of 2007, there was a position that was open for deputy sheriff. After successfully going through the hiring process, I was offered the position for deputy sheriff in June of 2007. Actually, 2008, I'm sorry. From there, I was successfully picked. I was offered the position. I attended a 17-week academy, identified at SELETSI, which is the Southern Arizona Law Enforcement Training Center in Tucson, Arizona. And I successfully graduated in October of 2008.
And since 2008?
Then from 2008, I came back to the department where I went through another training, which is an FTO program, which consists of 12 weeks. You go through different FTOs, different trainers, and I successfully passed the FTO program and was assigned to the patrol division.
And how long were you in patrol?
I was in patrol approximately 9 years. And I started as a regular patrol deputy, which is Deputy 1. Through the years, I went for Deputy 2. Then 4 or 5 years into patrol, I got promoted to corporal. And I was a second-line supervisor for my squad on patrol.
And I'm going to hone in on this patrol period of your career. As a patrol officer, have you received Code 3s?
All the time.
What's a Code 3?
Code 3 is where we are authorized to respond to a call for service as fast but as safe as possible. This is with lights on, reds and blues, and emergency siren on.
And so when you respond to a scene as a patrol officer, are you questioning the veracity of whoever is calling in about the scene?
No, we don't.
You understand the question?
Well, go ahead and repeat it again.
Are you second-guessing, whoever called you out to the scene, are you second-guessing the information when you respond?
No, of course not.
So you don't know if it's true or not,
That's correct.
but you're responding.
We're responding.
So after your patrol time, you said about 8 years in patrol, what else do you, walk me through the next phase of your career.
So during patrol, I obtained some certifications, some trainings, specialty trainings. I became a field training officer myself. I'm a phlebotomist for the department. I take blood for DUI investigations. I'm also HGN certified, which is an exam that specializes in detecting under the influence drivers. I am also a senior team leader SWAT member for our team. After that, approximately 9 years on patrol, there was a position that was offered for the Criminal Investigations Division. I submitted my letter of interest, and after several months, I was offered the position, and I've been there to this day.
And how long is that in years?
Going in 7.5 years now.
And your time at this, can I say CID?
Yes, sir.
And that stands for?
Criminal Investigations Division.
Okay, CID, 7 years. What kind of cases do you work at CID?
So basically, the role of CID, we take over investigations where patrol run out of, can't remember the word, but we take serious cases. We continue with cases when patrol deputies run out of resources, anywhere from serious bank frauds, sexual assaults, crimes against children, robberies, burglaries, auto thefts, homicides, any serious incident that patrol cannot or doesn't have the function to continue with the investigation. That's when we jump in.
You take over the investigation.
Yes, we take over the investigation.
You mentioned homicides. How many homicides in your 7-year period as a CID?
In CID, I've been directly, indirectly involved, I believe it's 7.
And those homicides, they involve weapons at all?
Yes, they do.
Do you remember if all 7 did?
Actually, yes.
What kind of weapons are we talking about?
We're talking from a small pocket knife to high-power rifles, shotguns, handguns, actually, too.
And within CID, 7 years, did you obtain the position of a senior detective?
Yes, I am actually the senior detective right now. We have our supervisor, which is Sergeant Flores. Yes, he's retired, came from another agent, has a background, but I am the senior one right now, under him.
And how many CID detectives are in the unit?
So right now it's myself, Detective Puerta, Detective Barba, Detective Muskis, and our sergeant. So it's 5 of us.
5 total, including the supervisor.
That's correct.
Small unit?
Yes, it is.
And as a small unit CID, obviously we see cases, you've seen cases that get kind of complicated, right?
That's correct.
You often ask the assistance from sister jurisdictions like DPS and neighboring counties?
Yes, we do. We don't have the luxury of being a big department, so our resources are limited, especially with these cases. We have a real good relationship with surrounding agencies, and we do call them, and they always assist.
Is that common or uncommon?
It's common.
Does that include DPS?
Yes, it does.
Does that include Pima County?
Yes, it does.
Does that include the FBI?
Yes, it does.
Does that include Border Patrol?
Yes, it does.
Does it include DEA?
Yes, it does.
Just the alphabet of agencies that you guys can call upon for assistance.
That's correct.
And specifically about the medical examiner, do you guys in Pima County, in Santa Cruz County, do you guys have your own medical examiner?
Unfortunately, we don't have an OME, which is the Office of the Medical Examiner here in Santa Cruz.
What do you guys do then?
We have us, which is Pima County, that's what we use. It's the Pima County in Tucson, Arizona.
And do you know, so that's the person that helps perform any required autopsies for you?
That's correct.
Do you know if there's a separate group at the Pima County Office for death investigators?
They do.
They do. Is there a contract between your office and their office?
We do have a contract, but it's only for our autopsies, not for the actual investigators to come out and help us.
And you don't have any information or knowledge about why that is, right?
I do not know.
Let's talk about involvement in this case, okay? We're going to shift now to this case.
Yes, sir.
Do you recall who, you're the senior detective, so you recall who was first on scene in this case?
During the first call?
Yeah, during the first call.
During the first call, it was several deputies along with the United States Border Patrol.
And when someone is first called out, what's the goal on a first call out for people responding?
When a call like this, or every call actually requires, first, most important is preservation of life.
Okay, anything else?
From there, once we arrive, it's preservation of the scene. From there, we go on to identifying victims, render aid to any victims if need be. We identify witness or witnesses, separate them. We identify suspect or suspects and separate them as well. And once that is done, we go ahead and start a crime scene log it depends on the call. Not all crimes and scenes require a crime scene log, but in this case, there's a crime scene log that it's performed.
First goal, preservation of life.
That's correct.
And then when CID, so we have officers who respond, code 3, lights and sirens. When CID responds, just reiterate, what's the goal when CID gets on scene now?
Once CID gets there, we make sure the scene is preserved. We make sure that everything, like I stated right now, witnesses get separated, victims get separated. Once the initial deputy starts getting all the information, the who, what, when, where, and why we're there. And from there, we start our investigation.
Are you familiar with what time the first call came in?
The first call, it was at approximately 1440 hours.
We're going to use civilian time
2:40.
here.
I'm sorry, 2:40 p.m.
And that call, what was the next step that the sheriff's department did in response to that call?
Several deputies, along with Border Patrol, arrived at the residence.
Are you familiar with the term security sweep versus, you're familiar with the term security sweep?
Yes.
You're familiar with what a search warrant is?
Yes.
Matter of fact, you've done several search warrants in this case.
Plenty.
And in your investigation experience, you've done a lot of search warrants.
Numerous.
All right, explain to the jury the difference between a security sweep and, say, a search.
So a security sweep It's basically you get to a location and you are looking for any possible people that can be an immediate threat to responding officers. Basically, you're searching for people.
And what's the reason?
For officer safety, make sure everything's secured around the perimeter, the residence, the field, whatever needs to be protected.
And once that person is identified, what happens to all the anxiety that builds up about first on scene when you find the person? What happens?
There's a lot of adrenaline that comes with this. Once you do find a person, whether it be a suspect or victim, everything is still chaotic, but you calm down a little bit.
And at this point, do you recall, lead detective, do you recall if there's a body found on the first call out with detectives?
No,
Not by SO?
not by the SO or Border Patrol that were assisting that day.
But they found the defendant.
They did.
You know what time they cleared scene on the first call out? Do you recall?
I don't recall the exact time.
But sometime in the afternoon?
Yes, late after. Yes.
And then sometime after people cleared the scene, there was a subsequent call out.
Yes,
So we've got two call outs, early afternoon and then early evening.
that's correct.
All right, I'm going to hone in on this early evening one, okay? Do you remember approximately what time a phone call came in to the SO?
So approximately 17:56 or 36 hours. I can't recall exactly the time, but it was around that time.
Civilian speak.
5:36, I apologize.
Around that time. When did you get called?
I got called at 6:29 p.m.
And what were you asked to do?
The initial request was from my sergeant. He wanted me to respond to the sheriff's office, CID.
Did you know why at the time?
He just told me of a possible homicide that occurred in the Keno Springs area.
Did you go to the scene on either the first call out or the second call out?
No, I did not respond for the first or second call.
So you're over here at CID, the Sheriff's Department.
Yes, sir, down the hill.
Eventually, the defendant shows up at CID, right?
That's correct.
And you remember approximately what time that was?
I can't remember approximately what time he arrived, but I know the time I began my interview with Mr. Kelly.
What time did you start your interview?
I started my interview with Mr. Kelly at 8:29 at night.
So you arrive at the Sheriff's Department around 6:30, and you're conducting an interview with the defendant at roughly 8:30.
That's correct.
In that period of time, that 2-hour period of time, what are you doing?
So prior to Mr. Kelly being transported to the sheriff's office, I was in contact with several people trying to get or gather more information as to what happened. I came into this blank call in a blank state. I had minimal information. Once I got there, I started making phone calls. I made contact with my sergeant, Sergeant Rodriguez, United States Border Patrol Agent Morcell, and our dispatch.
So you called officers on scene,
Yes,
you called Border Patrol,
yes,
and you specifically said Morcell.
yes,
You also talked to dispatch.
that's correct.
Why would you do any of those things?
Because like I stated, I came into the office with minimal information, and I knew Mr. Kelly was being transported. I wanted to gather much information I could before I could speak to Mr. Kelly.
And during that 2-hour period, did you listen in? You were here. Did you, at that moment, that 2-hour period, did you listen to Government Exhibit 56, which is the recording of the dispatch call?
Yes,
So you've got a bunch of information now ready to interview the defendant.
that's correct.
And what time was that? Did you start that interview?
At 8:29 p.m.
And do you know how long that interview was for?
Approximately 45 minutes. I believe I completed my interview with Mr. Kelly at 9:19 p.m.
That'd be about 50 minutes.
50 minutes, yes. Not good at math, sorry.
That's fine. After you've interviewed him, what decision did you make after you interviewed him?
Based on all the information I received, Mr. Kelly's interview, I had probable cause to arrest Mr. Kelly.
We're going to get in that interview in a bit, but I just want to continue with my timeline, okay? Did you book him?
Yes, I did. Well, actually, not physically book it, but I was involved in the booking form.
And do you remember the charge you booked him for?
I do. It was first-degree murder.
And what standard of proof do you use to book a defendant into custody?
The totality of circumstances leading from what was committed here.
Well, I got the totality, but I'm talking about, is it probable cause, clear and convincing, beyond a reasonable doubt? Do you know the standard that you use before you book an individual?
It's probable cause.
Probable cause. And in your permission to approach with government exhibit number 2?
Yes.
Which has been admitted, I believe, yesterday? Yeah. Actually, I'm going to publish it here. I don't know why I'm approaching. Permission to publish, Your Honor?
Yes.
And you recognize this from yesterday. We talked about this yesterday. Remember the walk-arounds and the whole thing? This is exhibit number 2, the booking form. Do you want to see it again?
No, I recognize it.
All right.
Thank you.
I'm going to show you the first page. You recognize that?
Yes, I do.
Can you circle for me the name of the defendant? You can write on the board thing. Okay, clear it for me. Circle the address for me. Go ahead and clear it. And how tall is Mr. Kelly?
He is 6 feet 0 inches. Sorry.
Okay. You have a time there when he's arrested?
Yes. Yes.
What time is that?
It's 21:21.
And if-
9:21 p.m.
And how far after your interview with him concluded did you make the decision to arrest him?
It was minutes.
I'll show you the second page of Exhibit 2, page 3A. You recognize that?
Yes.
And what is written, we've got ourselves a little comment section. You see that in the middle?
Yes, right here.
Yeah, can you read that for the jury?
Mr. Kelly was involved in a shooting at 100 Willow Cross Circle in Nogales, Arizona. Mr. Kelly was discovered carrying a rifle on his property after it was learned he was chasing undocumented foreign nationals. Mr. Kelly was interviewed and admitted to shooting at male subjects. A deceased male subject was discovered on the property.
There's a couple of things I want to ask you about in this. Is there any information, other than from the defendant, that there are other male subjects other than the victim and Daniel on the property?
That's correct.
That's a yes or no. So,
No other information.
No other information other than what the defendant
I'm
said.
going to object to leading and argumentative.
Let me go to the second point here. You said on here there was, towards the second last line or the last sentence about Mr. Kelly shooting. Can you reread that part for me, Detective?
Let me see. Which one? Where he was involved in a shooting or discovered carrying a rifle?
I'll just read it. It's admitted. Mr. Kelly was interviewed and admitted to shooting at male subjects. Do you see that?
Yes, sir.
Where's that information come from, Detective?
It comes from him
And
and United States Border Patrol.
in your interview with Mr. Kelly, was it voluntary?
Yes, it was.
Did you offer him any promises?
No, I didn't.
Did you threaten him in any way?
None whatsoever.
Objection, leading.
Overruled.
And we're going to play this, and it depends on the timing here, but how long into it's a 50-minute interview. How long into it does he admit to shooting at the direction of these individuals?
Approximately 30 minutes into my interview, Mr. Kelly finally admits to shooting.
After the booking form said 9:21, what did you do after 9:21, after booking the defendant?
At this time, I sat at my desk and started preparing an affidavit for a search warrant.
Did you interview Miss Wanda Kelly?
Yes, that was before. Yes, after Mr. Kelly, I apologize. After Mr. Kelly, I did interview Mrs. Kelly.
And I forgot to ask you, who else was with you in the interview with defendant?
Detective Mario Barba.
And who was lead on that interview?
I was.
And when you interviewed Miss Wanda Kelly, was it voluntary?
Yes, it was.
Did you promise her anything?
No,
Did you threaten her in any way?
none whatsoever.
I'm going to show you. And both interviews with the defendant and Ms. Kelly recorded?
Audio and video recording.
Are you trying to admit something?
I'm going to lay foundation.
Okay, you want to do that first?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. I just want to see where we were. Sorry, this is just messing up.
Permission to approach? That first exhibit 131, that staple is all funky, so just be aware.
I got it.
Do you recognize state exhibits 131, 132, and 133?
Yes, sir.
And what are those for the court?
These are white and color CDs. They are labeled first clip, second clip, and third clip
And those are clips of what interview?
with Mrs. Wanda Kelly.
And you conducted that interview,
Yes, I did.
right? And you reviewed those discs?
Yes, I did.
Did you initial those discs?
Yes, I did.
Fair and accurate representations of the interview?
Yes, it is.
Move to admit government exhibit 131 to 132 and 133.
Your Honor, I'm going to object to hearsay. This witness has already testified. They had fair chance to question on any part of this. None of it was used to refresh recollection or for impeachment. Therefore, this is purely hearsay.
I mean, I think Ms. Wanda Kelly had testified, and she disputed some of the things, and these clips go to contradicting Ms. Wanda Kelly's testimony on the stand.
What parts? Well, I mean.
There's no way you can tell from that.
Those are the CDs, but
We'll circle back after lunch. We'll continue. I know, but we can continue.
I don't know if you heard that. The clerk says that 131 has already been admitted.
That's correct, Your Honor, and you indicated when I used 131 that I needed to lay the proper foundation, and that I didn't have sufficient time on redirect to do the other two clips. So that's why we're playing them with this witness, but I did already confront her with the issues, so it was impeachment. And I have the transcript that I provided to the court and counsel previously for the clips.
Well, as I understand it, the request of your co-counsel is to wait and not address it at this time.
We can address it after the break, Your Honor.
All right, so no ruling on the objection because the offer at present to admit at least the other two exhibits has temporarily been withdrawn. Good enough? All right, go for it. Let's go.
Thank you. Thank you, Judge.
And after you finished your interview with Ms. Wanda Kelly, what task did you start doing?
So at that time, that's when I sat on my computer desk in my office, and I started preparing a affidavit of probable cause for a search warrant.
And then, do you recall what time you requested approval of the search warrant?
It was a little bit after 11:19 or 20 hours. I'm not exactly the time, but it was past 11 p.m.
Would 11:30 be approximately right?
Sounds right, yes.
And what time, after the approval, what time did you go and serve that search warrant?
I arrived at the Kelly residence early morning of January 31st of 2023. It was a little bit after midnight. It was 12:29 or 12:30 in the early morning of the 31st.
So now we've just passed that midnight hour into the new day.
That's correct.
All right. So this is January 31st, 2023.
That's correct.
Remember the number of that search warrant?
It was SW 23-007.
And before we talk about the search warrant, what's the standard practice of serving a search warrant on a residence?
So our standard practice for our department and how we do it, it's even though if there's people or not people in prisons, we arrive, we knock and announce 3 times. We knock, sheriff's office, we knock, sheriff's office, we knock, sheriff's office, and while we're there, search warrant, search warrant, search warrant.
And continue on. So you announce, and what if someone comes to the door?
Someone comes to the door, we make sure this person comes out, it's not armed, not hostile, and we control the scene if that happens. And if there's someone inside, we escort them out of the house.
Why can't they be in the house as you do your search warrant?
Yeah, this is to prevent any further tampering of evidence, hiding of evidence, destruction of evidence.
And did you go inside the house in this case?
Yes, we did.
And how many people are going on the search warrant?
So at this time, during this particular incident, there was 3 detectives assigned to CID.
And what's the role for each, and why? What's the role for each of these detectives?
So we all help each other out. We work as a team. Once the photographer, we label the house. We have a scriber and we have a collector. And sometimes we do multiple roles. We bag, tag, and secure evidence.
And how do you treat the belongings in that house?
All the years I've been with the Sheriff's Office, on patrol, and CID, I've assisted search warrants on patrol. Now being directly involved, I treat every house as if it was mine. We treat it with the most respect, and she photographs, pre-photographs, and exit photographs just to show that nothing was damaged, broken. I treat that as my home.
And you guys collected some stuff from that search warrant, right?
We collected several things. Yes,
All
we
right.
did.
And you also did some searching outside, right?
Yes, we did.
All right. And did you guys ask the assistance of another agency on that night?
That night, I was informed that they had requested the assistance from ATF.
And what does ATF stand for?
It's called the Alcohol, Tobacco, Farms Explosive Unit. It's a federal agency.
Okay. What was the purpose of them being called out?
This agency has, of course, it's a federal agency. They're very big. They got the money. They have a canine unit, a canine that specifically is trained to sniff ammunition and guns.
Do you recall on that night, did the canine detect or alert to, I'm sorry, let's use the proper word, alert to anything?
Yes.
What did the canine alert to?
Once I met with the canine handler, ATF agent, I let him know, hey, here's a warrant. It was granted. You can begin your search. He grabbed his canine and he did his pre-routine. I don't know what that is. I'm not a canine handler. I'm not certified, but they do a little pre-routine. At this time, the handler went to the residence and the dog alerted to a certain location of the residence, the exterior of the residence, by the porch area.
And do you recall after the canine alerted, what happened with the canine?
The canine at this time, I made contact with the agent. He told me that canine was done. Unfortunately, the canine handler grabbed his dog, got in his unit, and they departed the scene.
So they located a shell casing and they took off.
That's correct.
What time of day is this?
This is early in the morning on the 31st. It's dark.
It's dark. And so when they found that first shell casing, you just said it was late in the early morning, dark outside.
Yes, it was.
And we're going to fast forward real quick, but the second search of the home is during the daytime, right?
That's correct.
Show that. Jose, just show that to them so they know what I'm looking at.
They've got one.
I know, I just want them to know what I'm looking at.
Oh.
I just want to take a look. You can go ahead, I'm sorry.
Oh, just make sure it's not
No, it's
nothing
unrelated.
to do with me. Okay, good. All right.
Thank you.
And during that first search warrant, did you also collect items from the defendant?
The defendant's residence?
Yes.
Yes.
Did you also collect an AK-47?
That's correct.
And how was that? What was the condition of that? This is the first AK-47, right?
During the first search warrant?
First search warrant. And what condition was that AK-47 found in?
This AK, the first one was, I can say it was new because it was in a box. brand new, looked brand new. It still had the safety feature, which is an orange, a piece of plastic that's on the bolt that keeps it from manipulation, and it was brand new.
So the first search warrant finds a brand new, in your opinion, brand new AK-47.
Yes,
All right. And that's different from the other AK-47, right?
yes, it is.
That you found in search warrant, which search warrant did you find that one in?
That was on the second search warrant, which was SW 23-008.
Okay. And are you done that evening, or are you doing anything else when you're at scene?
The first search warrant?
Yeah, you did the search warrant, are you doing anything else?
Once we completed the search warrant and collecting, myself and Detective Barba placed all the evidence collected in my unit, and we arrived at the sheriff's office, I believe it was at 2:50 in the morning, maybe close to 3, and we secured all the evidence within our conference room in CID, which no one has access to that room other than the detectives.
Well, did you also at the scene take photographs?
That is correct.
You took photographs inside the house?
We do.
Yeah, like, and the jury has seen that, so I'm not going to waste time showing those pictures, but you took all those photographs, right?
Yes, I did.
Anytime did Miss Kelly return home?
Yes, she did.
You know what time that was?
I do not have the exact time when she arrived, but she did arrive right before we finished the search warrant.
All right. So you go home, you go to the station, lock everything up, and go home.
That's correct.
And what are you going home for?
To get some rest, because I knew we have to come back.
All right. You go bed, you come back. What time do you come back to the station?
My normal work hours. I went home, got home like around a little past 3, rested, and I came back to the office at 8 o'clock.
All right. When you return home, when we return to the station, what did you do?
I started preparing another search warrant.
Why?
Because we were informed that the AK-47, the first AK-47 was not the right one.
And also, there was other structures on the property?
Yes, during the first one, we were informed by Deputy Felix that the residents, pretty large residents, had a pump house and a barn just south of the residence.
Let's go back to that AK-47. Why wasn't the first AK-47, the new one, why wasn't that the right one?
The description didn't match.
Like what?
The actual AK-47 that Mr. Kelly was found in was weathered, it had bluing, had a green strap, it had wood stock, and had a flashlight duct taped to the barrel.
And that first AK didn't have any of that?
None of it.
So you prepare a second search warrant?
That's correct.
And do the same process, submit it for approval?
That's
Objecting to leading.
It's just foundational. It is leading, but it's foundational, so the objection's overruled.
Submit it for approval,
That's correct.
and then you go and execute the search warrant.
That's correct.
What time was that? Do you remember?
It was early afternoon, if I can refer to my report, but I don't know exact time, but I know it was late afternoon, early afternoon.
Would 12:30 be about right?
Yes, it is.
And when you do your search warrant, you walk through the process already. So walk us through, when you executed this search warrant, what did you do?
Actually, Mrs. Kelly was at the residence when we arrived for the second search warrant.
And then what happened when someone's at the home? What do you do when someone's at the home?
I introduced Mrs. Kelly and asked her if she recognized me. She said yes. I asked her if she could step out of residence and presented her the search warrant.
And then what?
She complied, she read it, and she understood.
And then?
She exited the residence and departed the residence.
So what did you do?
I executed the search warrant.
And did the same process?
Same process. We photograph the residence, we label the residence, we take pictures.
Now we're in the daytime, though, right?
That's correct.
And so you also searched the barn and the pump house?
Prior to that, if I may get into it, prior to that, we searched 2 vehicles.
all right, you searched 2 cars, pump house, and a barn.
That's correct.
All right. And then I want to focus in, because the sequence doesn't really concern me, but I just want to make sure that everything you've done, okay?
That's correct.
So pump house, barn, 2 vehicles, but now I'm focusing on the house again.
Yes.
All right. You do a search warrant, you execute the search warrant in the residence.
That's correct.
Walk us through that search warrant.
So the process of this search warrant, we label each room with these letter templates. The main entrance, we start with A. This search warrant, we started in the garage and made our way into the residence, the entire residence. We label every room. We document what room is it: master bedroom, living room, kitchen, hallway.
You do the same thing again.
Yes.
All right. And then what's the focus here? What are you looking for?
We're looking for the AK-47.
And then where did the AK-47 end up being found?
It was in a bedroom.
And?
The AK-47 was located behind a door, bedroom door, covered with a green T-shirt or long sleeve shirt.
And she's finding that exhibit for me. I'm gonna jump. You guys also went out to where the victim's body was at, right?
That's correct.
Why'd you guys go to where the victim's body was located?
I have not seen the area where the body was located the prior night, and we went out there just to photograph, additional photographs of the area, and we were trying to see if we can find any other evidence.
Okay, so we've seen photographs from your supervisor, Sergeant Flores.
Yes.
On the night of.
Yes.
And the next day you go out there and take photographs too.
Yes.
And your goal is, what are you looking for when you're out there?
We were actually looking for a projectile.
And how do you look for a projectile?
We were walking around with our eyes, plus there was actually a metal detector out there.
So you're doing a visual inspection,
That's correct.
and you also use some modern device called a metal detector.
That's correct.
Do you remember what the setting was on the metal detector?
This detector it's owned by the sheriff's office, bought by the sheriff's office, it's assigned to CAD, and we had the setting for all metals.
And how many metal detectors did you have out there on the 31st?
If I remember correct, that afternoon, we had one.
And did you find anything?
We did not find any projectiles or any other evidence that can be linked to the incident.
So back at the house, you find the AK-47 behind a door?
That's correct.
And what was over the AK-47?
It was a light green or green colored shirt.
Okay, let's just ask you, did you take photographs on the night that you came on let me separate for the jury. The search warrant 007, the first time you were at the house.
That's correct.
You're a photographer, right?
That's correct.
And did you take photographs of the entire house?
I did.
Including this room?
That's correct.
Including behind the door?
That's correct.
So you actually took that photograph the first time when you were there on 007?
Yes, I did.
Why didn't you see it?
During the photograph, if you see the photograph, there's a scabbard, black in color. I got excited. I concentrated on that. And to this day, I am embarrassed that I missed that AK-47.
Well, don't give yourself too much. What's over the AK-47?
It's a green T-shirt, and if it appears that whoever put that AK-47 took the time to drape it over the whole AK, including the magazine, all the way to the stock.
And when you came back the next day on 008, Did someone find it because of a visual inspection or from an auditory sound?
It was an auditory sound.
Do you remember what happened?
It was Sergeant Flores that went into another room because he stated he was not going to leave until we found this AK-47. While I was to an adjacent room, which was a bathroom, he called me over. He said, I found it.
All right, and we've seen that, State Exhibit 101. You've seen that, that's the gun we've seen in trial, right?
Yes,
That's the same gun.
yes,
They have a magazine in it,
yes, it did.
and we've seen that, which is Government Exhibit 102. Both have been admitted. And did you also collect, you were here when Rick Wyant, the gentleman from Washington, the expert ballistics individual, right?
Yes, sir.
Right, he tested some ammunition, didn't he?
That's correct.
Did he get ammunition? How did he get the ammunition?
From the magazine.
From the magazine that you recovered?
That's correct.
And then during that search warrant 008, we're in the daytime now, the daytime one, right?
That's
Did someone do a perimeter check around the house?
Yes.
Who?
At this time, we had Sergeant Bunting with us, former Detective Bunting. He's a sergeant now. He was there with us.
Okay, and walk us through, did he take it on his own initiative to go outside?
Yes, while I was processing or exiting the house with the items, Detective Bunting exited the residence, and moments later, he called me over, and when I met with him, he had shown me what he discovered.
What did he discover?
He found casings in the back porch area, spent casings.
And you've seen that picture where we have the blue and the yellow circles,
That's correct.
right? And I think we just refer that to the blue and yellow. So which casings did Sergeant Bunting or Detective Bunting find?
There were the ones circled in yellow.
The cluster?
Yes,
And you took photographs of that, right?
yes.
And you also took, were you there also for the placards?
Yes,
Okay. You also took photographs of the outside, right?
that's correct.
From the patio out?
That's correct.
I'm going to show you what's already been admitted. 34. Permission to publish, right?
That's already in? It's admitted? Is that admitted? Permission granted.
We have that nasty glare in the middle of that thing, so I'm moving it over. You recognize that photograph?
Yes,
Is that a photograph that you took?
that's correct.
And the jury went out to the scene, so this is going to be a lot more familiar to them. What are we looking at?
This photograph depicts the back of the residence, right outside the porch. To the left, you see a little walkway. In front, you see a gazebo. Just to the right of it, you see that smoker. Right behind the smoker, you can see a T-post, which is the first fence line.
And Detective, how tall are you?
I'm 5'8".
And when you took that photograph, you're taking it from a photograph of someone standing 5'8"?
That's correct.
And how tall is the defendant?
6 feet.
If I do my math right, that's 4 inches taller than you?
That's correct.
Council's looking at that. I'm going to go through. Sorry, I put you on the spot, Kathy. So we go through Exhibit 72, which I believe has been admitted. Triple K. Or is it triple K? I have double K. Triple K or double K? Can't see it? Oh, no, it's double K. Is 72 admitted? Yes. 72 is admitted. Permission to publish 72?
It's admitted, so granted.
So I'm going to show you some pictures that you took of the victim's clothes. You attended the autopsy, right?
Yes, I did.
What was the purpose of you attending the autopsy?
That was to take additional photographs and collect the victim's clothing.
And did you see the victim being brought in a body bag?
Yes.
Was there any tampering with the body bag?
No, the seal was still intact.
County Sheriff's Department seal?
Yes, we seal our bags with a number tag and a zip tie.
And who opened that bag?
What's that, sir?
I'm sorry. Who opened that bag?
That's the OME personnel that opens that bag.
In your presence, right?
In my presence.
All right, I'm going to go through some photographs with you, starting with image 1743. The reason I'm showing this, the jury has seen these items, are admitted, but I want to show that they're in the same condition as you photographed them on the day of the autopsy.
That's correct.
All right, the day of the autopsy is February 1st?
That's correct.
What's that picture of?
That is the outer green jacket.
Let me show you governing image 1744. Picture of?
These are the victim's pants,
The outside pants?
the outside pants.
Some undergarments?
That's the middle is the socks and the bottom is the undergarments.
Undergarment?
That's correct.
And you reviewed Government Exhibit 72, right?
Yes,
And you were here for the unveiling of the evidence in court, right?
that's correct.
Any difference between the two?
Nothing at all.
What am I looking at?
These are the other pair of socks.
And you know what time of year it was?
It was late January and it was cold. It was winter.
Cool. Is it common for you personally to double up on socks if you go outside for a long period of time?
Me personally, I've done it, but it's not common, but it's cold. Yes.
What's that photo of?
This is the black sweatpants on top, the boots, the belt, and the green outer jacket.
That's the jacket he was wearing when he came in?
Yes.
Who's taking the clothes off of him?
This is done all by the OME.
Is that a better picture of the sweatpants?
Yes.
A laid out photo of the outer pants?
This is the,
Oh, I'm sorry, jacket. I thought it was legs.
yes,
Jacket?
this is the jacket.
Is that the front of the jacket?
Yes.
So if I'm looking at the front of the jacket, what side has the blood on it?
The right side.
Another picture of the jacket?
Yes.
We have a picture of the boots?
That's correct.
Same condition as we've seen in court?
Yes.
Picture of the shirt?
Yes.
Same condition as we've seen in court?
Yes.
So this is February 1st of last year.
Yes.
Finally, this is a picture, a front picture of the shirt, right?
Yes.
I'm going to go back to Government Exhibit 34, image 4377. We just talked about that, right?
Yes.
Next, I'm going to show you a defense exhibit, KK. It's the second page. It's not labeled. Second page. Same view, right? I'm going to show it to you. You see that view?
Yes.
You see this view, right?
Yes.
Is there a difference between the defense exhibit?
Yes.
What's the difference?
You can see the sun, and then you can see it's actually higher.
The photographer, lower or higher than you? What's in the way?
Your Honor, I'm going to object. This is state's photos, so I don't know what they're, just because I entered it doesn't make a difference. They took it.
This
We
is
did
not
not
a state
take it.
photo. This is not a state photo.
Where are we going with this?
I'm directing my examination on a exhibit that was used to cross-examine other witnesses in this case, a defense picture which is different than the state's photograph. I'm showing the difference between the two because it was conveyed to the jury.
And how would this witness know the height of the person taking this picture?
Because you could tell by the smoker.
And Your Honor, their picture, the other picture, is the next picture in the exhibit. These were shown. I don't understand his point.
I think it's marginal, but I'll overrule the objection. The jury was there. We were there yesterday, so they saw it. As we say where I come from, they saw it with their own eyes. So,
I'm going to move on.
yeah, let's move on.
I'm going to move on. You also took possession of a backpack,
Yes.
a fanny pack,
Yes.
and we've actually seen those in court. Any damage to the backpack?
The only damage that I observed while processing right before submitting to evidence was the cut straps that were done by Sergeant Rodriguez.
Any bullet strike?
There was no bullet strike.
Any evidence of a ricochet, deflection on the backpack?
Nothing like that.
And just so we know, if the agent is permitted to stand up, I just want to make sure we understand how the backpack and the bullet entry wound is on the body. Permission for him to stand up just to show us again?
Sure.
You want to stand up? And show us on the body of the victim where the bullet entry hole is.
It was right here.
Is that where you wear a backpack?
Backpack rests on the back middle part.
And you also have a fanny pack, right?
Yes.
Any damage to the fanny pack?
Not that I could see.
You also, when you collected everything, is it customary practice to fill out property receipts?
Yes.
And what's a property receipt?
Proper receipt, it's an inventory of items that we take, that we give to the homeowners.
And why do you do that?
Just to keep accountability of what we took.
And did you provide the defendant or his family property receipts?
I actually met with Mr. Kelly at the Santa Cruz County Sheriff's Office Adult Detention Center.
And you also, we heard testimony already about Border Patrol surveillance. You also looked at DVDs, right?
Yes, I did.
How many DVDs do you recall that everyone looked at?
I think it was 3 to 4 that I reviewed.
How many in total?
It was a lot of DVDs that were given to me, but I reviewed 3 to 4.
And how many people reviewed them?
It was myself, Sergeant Flores, former Detective Bunting, and Detective Barba.
And what was the reason to review Border Patrol surveillance videos?
We wanted to see if we can see anything else other than Mr. Callan Ranch, any subjects, any people running, rifles, bundles, everything that was disclosed that what Mr. Kelly had seen.
All right, I'm going to go to the interview. I'm not going to play it yet, unless you want to break now, Judge. But
Let's keep going.
all right. I'm going to go to the interview. I'm going to approach. I'm going to show you transcript. This transcript is Government Exhibit 15. Can I have the actual one back there, ma'am? 15. And this is the interview. Approximately what time did you conduct this interview?
At 8:29.
On what day?
This was done on the 31st of January of 2023. Actually, 30th of 2023. January 30th, 2023.
I first want to talk about the defendant's statement. I'm going to do some categories here. I'm not going to do the whole thing because we're going to listen to it. I just want to highlight some items in this, okay?
Yes, sir, understood.
All right, I'm going to first talk about the category of professionalism. I'm going to have you direct your attention to page 7, line 16. You see that?
Page 7.
Actually, I'm going to flip-flop. I'm going to actually have you look at this exhibit.
Well, why is he looking at something if there's no question pending yet as to whether or not he...
I'm going to read from it. This is the defendant's statement. We're going to talk about his statement.
Okay, all right. I thought you were trying to refresh his recollection. So.
So you got the government exhibit 15 right there, right?
Yes.
Page 7, line 16. You see that?
Yes.
Your question was actually on line 17. Your question was, quote, tell me everything you did today from the time you woke up to the time you came here and me talking to you. Did I read that right?
Yes, you did.
Is that an open-ended question?
Yes, it is.
I'm going to have you go to page 35.
But you just told me before that you were reading this because you were going to read Mr. Kelly's statements. What I just heard was a statement from the witness.
Well, I'm true, but I'm getting context to. You're right. Let me back up. I'm going to talk about. I'm going to scratch that detective. I'm going to go to a different category. All right?
Yes, sir.
And before I get into it, any evidence that you collected or you reviewed in this case of another shot being fired on the property?
None whatsoever.
Any evidence that you collected or reviewed of a robbery?
None whatsoever.
Any evidence, physical
I
evidence?
am
that you
object to all the leading questions.
Overruled.
Any evidence that you reviewed that were 5 to maybe up to 15 men on the property?
None whatsoever.
Any evidence of a struggle?
None whatsoever.
Any evidence of drugs?
None whatsoever.
Any evidence of guns?
None whatsoever.
Let's talk about defendant shooting. Let's go to page 24 for me. This is page 24. How many pages in that transcript, Detective?
47. 47.
47. So on page 24, I'm going to direct your attention to line 19. Okay? You with me?
Yes, sir.
Mr. Kelly says,
I'm sorry, what page?
24. To give us some context, I want to give this some context. The question before is talking about a search warrant, right?
Yes.
And then Mr. Kelly responds to you, quote, I have no reason to believe I shot this person. Did I read that right?
Yes, you did.
And then your question was, what does that mean? Is that the first time that came up
Yes.
in the interview, right?
That's correct.
And the defendant says, it means I have no reason to believe I shot him. That's simple. Right?
That's correct.
I read that correctly?
Yes, you did.
And then your question was, did you shoot? And what was his response?
No answer.
No answer.
Your Honor, I mean, a lot of this information is taken out of content, and I would just ask the court or the city attorney to play it so it could be heard in content and then ask these questions so we all know what preceded the comments. It's misleading.
I'm honing in on the very fact that cross-examination hit on that. The defendant never admitted to shooting. I'm honing in on this.
It's not a question of whether you can do it, but it's more a question of when it's more proper to do it. And
I could do it after.
Perhaps more effective, so.
I could do it after.
I think it is a better practice.
That's fine, I could do
Fair
it
enough,
after.
fair enough. All right, well, why don't we, I'll sustain the objection. We'll play the recording, assuming it's in and proper foundation is made, and then you can follow up questions.
And just for the record, I think the recording is admitted already.
All right, makes it even better, easier. All right, we're going to take I'm going to stay here with the lawyers, talk about a few things. We're going to take our noon recess. Please be back. We're going to, at 1:30, we'll resume the testimony at 1:30. You're excused for the lunch recess. I'll stay here.
We rise before.
All right, thanks. You could have a seat. The record will show the absence of the jury, but counsel and defendant are still here. First, the jury expressed their thoughts on coming to court next Monday for trial. Any position on that from any side?
We would defer to the court, Your Honor. We would like to get it done, but we'd defer to the court, whatever you think is most appropriate.
All right.
Speaking from someone from Texas, I'd like to get this done. But I think that we can make more progress, and I think they think it's going to go through another whole week. I'd like to see how long this detective is, where the state ends. Maybe we can reconsider that, if they rest or not today or not. If not, I mean, I know we're having a short afternoon, but personally, I would
personally like to see us continue on Monday.
Yeah, I appreciate that as being an out-of-town attorney. And I thought their position was very reasonable. I think what they were saying was they're believing that the case will not be submitted to them next week, at least not in time for them to really deliberate on the case.
Right.
So, well, in other words, I think they're thinking that the case will not be submitted to them by the end of next week in time for them to really deliberate. So that being the case, I think the thinking is why not just, they're going to come back the next week anyway. I'm mindful of the fact that when we told them as prospective jurors what the prospective timeline of the case would be, in other words, how long it would take, we told them 3 weeks or 4 weeks, and it's going to go to 5 weeks, and we also told them we wouldn't have court on Monday. So we're already going to likely or very possibly exceed the 4 weeks that I told them within which we'd be able to do this. So that being the case, I'm inclined to defer to their request to have Monday off, because we also represented them that they wouldn't have court on Monday. I said, I made the arrangements. I'm able to do it. I think we could use the time, but I think their position is fairly taken. The only thing he said at the end was, well, if there's something new or different, that could affect that scheduling, to let them know. But, so we can wait till about 3 o'clock and see where we're at and then address it then. But I kind of have a feeling that this witness will still be on the stand at 3 o'clock, I would imagine, either through direct or cross. All right, so we'll wait until then. Now, what about this issue with Mrs. Kelly and what the state wants to do?
Your Honor, this was proper impeachment of Wanda Kelly based on her comments during her testimony, and the state was limited on redirect and wasn't able to play it to the witness, but I did confront her with the topics while she was on the stand, so this is appropriate redirect. In addition, Your Honor, she is available, and the case law says that the witness merely has to be available in order for the impeachment to be proper.
Well, first I'll hear from the defense, but I just want to know, as we proceeded, then I sent my judicial assistant over to get a copy of the transcript, and what I got looks like a very partial. It's like 4 pages or 5 pages, so it's obviously not the whole transcript.
Oh, that's just the clips, Your Honor, that the state is offering. It's the first clip is the part that's marked first clip. The second clip is the part marked second clip, and the third clip is the part marked third clip. We weren't introducing the entire Wanda Kelly interview.
So what I have here is what you've proposed to use to play for impeachment purposes.
Yes, Your Honor, and we've already played the first clip. You just told us that we needed to lay the appropriate foundation with Detective Ainsa, which we have done today. You admitted
And are those,
it
which one of
subject to that.
these are all of these on CD 131?
131 is the first clip, 132 is the second clip, and 133 is the third clip.
All right, and again, I'm going to hear from the defense, but, it's potentially proper impeachment if the witness said something that's materially inconsistent with another prior statement that she made. The problem I'm having is the witness testified I had the clerk tally it up for 6 hours. I can't possibly remember within that 6 hours or 5.5 hours of testimony that she did everything she said and what she denied, and whether or not anything she said or denied is inconsistent with what's in these clips. It has to be, the witness had to be asked a question, said something that's materially inconsistent with what she said or the witness said at a prior date in order for it to be proper impeachment. And
Judge, the
I can't,
state-
it was 6 hours of testimony.
The state prepared those clips directly after her testimony for the purpose of impeachment because she made comments that were directly opposite to what is in the transcript. That's why I prepared the clips on the day that I was going to do the redirect. So that it's the state's position that she did say things opposite to what is in the transcript.
I
That's why we were
understand.
offering it.
That's your position, that she said something that's inconsistent with what's in this transcript.
Right.
But I have to do my own due diligence. I'm not going to.
Sure.
And That's what you say, but I can't determine from this, after 5.5, 6 hours of testimony, I can't remember everything she said. So I don't know, as I sit here, whether it's inconsistent or not. Well, let me hear first from the defense, and then we'll talk about it some more.
Well, Your Honor, I think this really has been beat up. There's been rebuttal testimony that's been brought up. It's been challenged and crossed with her. They could have used her statements and say, why didn't you say this? Do you need to refresh your memory? All those things that could have laid that out with her and giving her a chance to answer to it. But she's not on the stand anymore, and they're bringing something later. Like you said, it's been long gone and also beat up already. So I think the point's made, and I think we're being redundant on this, and I would object.
Okay. Was the witness asked, and again, I saw the same problem, I have to try and verify some of this, or all of it, but was the witness asked on her direct examination by the state whether or not she said these things that are in this transcript?
Judge, I believe I showed her the transcript, asked her about it, and she denied the transcript.
Never denied.
That's my recollection.
Right. Well, I need to see something in the record in order to make a ruling. I just can't make it. As I said, it's 5.5, 6 hours of testimony. I can't remember everything she said or just didn't say or wouldn't say or denied. So if you can point me and of course the defense also to something in the record within that 5.5 to 6 hours of testimony where she was presented with these statements and said, did you say these things? And if she denied it, then at least I'll have some basis on which to make a ruling.
Well, I don't think we have a transcript of that, Judge, so I can't point to the record. I can tell you what my notes indicate from her testimony that day, but that's the closest I can get. I can tell you what I believe I impeached her with, attempted to impeach her with, and she continued to deny that what she said in the transcript. That was the problem.
You're saying that she denied ever making these statements that are in the transcript? Is that what your position is?
She's denying the content of the statements. That's why the impeachment is appropriate.
But
She's
was
denying the
she
content.
asked, and again, I have to verify, but did she deny that she said these things during the interview?
I believe I don't think she said she denied the statements, but she's denying the content of the statements. That's the problem. And Judge, I think the case law says, I can bring a case after lunch if you like, I believe the case law says that you don't have to have directly confronted the witness with the statement while they're on the stand, as long as the witness is still available. And the defense
But if she
could
did,
call.
but if she was confronted with the statement, then
And-
that changes the analysis.
You're
So
on-
if she was confronted with, did you make this statement to Agent so-and-so when you were interviewed at the CID office? And if she were to deny that the transcript, what's in the transcript is correct,
I think the problem was that when I would ask her a question and I would say, didn't you say that, she would go into a 5-minute explanation of what happened and never directly answer the question. I think that was the problem I was having, and she would deny the content and attempt to explain, but wouldn't directly answer the question. And that was the difficulty I was having. And I think at one point she said, "You're crazy if you think I remember everything that happened that day." There were a number of comments of that nature in the middle of me asking her those questions from the transcript.
Your Honor, may I shed some light on this? I think, just to recall, maybe it'll help the court and the ADA. I believe what she said was that there were more than one time he came in, and that there was possibly confusion at which time. She never said, "I didn't say this." She was trying to bring clarity as to what time, the second time, when she's saying he was in there 3 times. So I think that was where the state didn't get her on it, and where her confusion was what she was referencing. She never said, "I didn't say these words." She never said that. But she was talking about the second time versus, in her mind, he had 3 visits in the house. if I recall the testimony correct. So that's where she was getting confused in the comments where they didn't understand what she was saying.
And Your Honor, I think why it's important from the state's perspective is that the transcript makes very clear that there is no confusion about which time she and the detective are talking about. So
She was confused.
During her testimony, she indicated that during the interview, the detective she was confused about what the detective meant, which time he was talking about. But it's very clear from the transcript and the clips themselves that there was no confusion about what they were talking about. And because of the way she answered those questions, I believe these are important for impeachment.
Your Honor, she had a chance to use her talent in questioning her and make her point because she wasn't denying saying it. And impeachment, the reason these are coming in is to impeach that she did say something or didn't say something. And so if the state couldn't get clarity on their own questions, then that doesn't give them a chance to impeach because they didn't do what they were supposed to do. And establishing the confusion. But I think the witness was very clear in her mind what she believed was first, second, third time, and I think it was referencing second and third time in her mind, doesn't give them a chance to keep going back at her.
Understood. Now, I'm looking again at this 1, 2, 3, 4, the 5 pages of the transcript that the state has identified that they're seeking to use the specific clips from part of that interview.
Right.
I thought I heard you say, correct me if I'm wrong, that the first clip is in evidence, right?
Judge, I played the first clip during the redirect, but I ran out of time because we were limited, and I wasn't able to play the other 2 clips, which I had prepared to play during redirect of Mrs. Kelly. I just did not have that opportunity. I don't believe that I have to play them with the witness. I believe that this is appropriate impeachment through the witness who was actually present at the interview, which is why we were doing it this way, since we were limited on time.
So you were, you did play the first clip, is that what you're
That's
saying?
correct. It
But-
was admitted, subject to the foundation by the detective.
So you played the first clip, and you're saying you didn't ask her questions about the first clip? Did you ask her questions about what was played?
Yes, I did, Judge, but I didn't get to ask about the other 2 clips
Okay.
because of the timing issue. Correct.
All right,
Yes.
so what I'm showing, that's why I'm asking these questions.
Yes.
Sorry to go over the noon hour, but from the portion of the transcript that I have, the first clip consumes the first 3.5 pages.
That's correct, Your Honor.
So then the second clip starts on what's been marked here in this transcript, page stamp 1491, on line 12.
Yes.
So we've
Very short.
we've already heard everything that's on, and she's already been asked about what's on the transcript. You just told me that as to the first clip.
Yes, Judge, but she denied it. That was the issue. Oh, as to the first clip, yeah, that's done. The first clip's done. We just had to lay the foundation for that. So we weren't going to replay the first clip. First clip's done.
All right.
That's already
So
done.
what we're talking about then, that's in question, is the last page and a half.
And I think it's about a minute of clips total.
All right, but let's look at the content of it.
Yep.
Although I'm looking at something, lines 12 to 17 say out.
That's the part that we did not include because of the court's order with respect to warning shots.
All right, so now we're talking about what remains is Bates stamp 1491, beginning at line 17 and a half.
Right.
All right. Yes, there's a dead body in your house, your property, in your property. This is a question. Yes, there's a dead body in your house, your property. He's got a gunshot wound, and your husband's been interviewed, and he's admitted to shooting at them. Answer, well, he usually shoots a warning shot, like, just to let him know, hey, don't come close. And then out, so
The part
what's that,
on the-
what's that all about? I mean, what,
The part on the warning shots was the additional questions about the warning shots, Your Honor.
well, then it says out.
Right, that's the part that we left off the clip, Judge. That's why it says
Okay,
out.
so I'm just trying to define what it is exactly what it is that you're seeking to play. And then it goes from we're on the last page, third clip. okay, did he tell you today he shot a warning shot today? Answer, well, I heard a shot, so I assume so. Only one shot, I don't know. You don't know? Okay, I did know that there was one. So what's impeaching about that?
It's about, first, that the detective she didn't admit the number of shots or that she heard shots until the detective told her about her husband admitting to the shots. The defense implied during their cross of her that the detective lied about that, which was untrue. And what the detective said is detailed there. And so that's what we're impeaching, is what she said on redirect with respect to the officer lying to her about what her husband said. So that's the first issue. The second issue is the number of shots, which she also denied. She said she told Detective Ainsa that there were 5 to 6 shots, when in reality she only said 1 shot. But it's primarily in the context of what they elicited on cross-examination with respect to when she had admitted that she heard the shots.
Judge, this has nothing to do with impeachment whatsoever, and I just don't understand why this is being considered for why the state's considering this as impeachment. It was our questioning of the detective's tactics to give misrepresentation of what her husband said or admitted to try to get her to confess along with it, type of strategy. So that was just our table doing our implications, not the witness. And again, it was clear the warning shot thing was her speculation, that because she did hear some shots, she don't know how many. She said she heard them, can't remember how many. Got mad when everyone tried to nail her down to how many, because she was like, I was under stress. I mean, she didn't know if her husband was dead or alive, and she got mad at the state for that, trying to hold her down to it. So I don't understand why this is impeachment.
All right, it's 10 after 12. I'm going to take the matter under advisement. We'll come back after lunch with a ruling. But thank you for your assistance on that.
Thank you.
All right, we're in recess until 1:30.
Rise to the court.